Classics Lounge in downtown Beersford is your destination.
When life gets hard and our thoughts get too much to bear, finding the resiliency within us can help us find healing. The 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline provides 24/7 free support for anyone in suicidal distress or emotional crisis. All texts and calls are anonymous and connect you to local resources that uphold cultural values and pave the way to healing. Find the strength within you. Find the strength within our culture. Reach out if you need help today.
Customer service is more than just a word. It's what Jensen Insurance Agency and Auto Owners Insurance does every day.
We have more companies than most agencies in town. We're able to find a competitive market for each family. We're able to farm that out, quote it with each of our carriers, including Auto Owners Insurance, of course, and see where it best fits.
In Sioux Falls, Beersford, and Elk Point, go to jensenagencyonline.com to find out more. Jensen Insurance Agency, building relationships since 1944.
In times like these, it's good to know there's a place where people know who you are, no matter how long you've been gone. A place where the smells of home cooking are still in the air, where a simple wave warms your heart, and sharing stories is just a way of life. It's good to be home. Agraria Insurance Company, protecting what's important in life. Contact your local Agraria Insurance Company agent.
Are you stuck in a job that gives you no family life? Work for Sioux Steel and enjoy a 4-day work week. Choose from first or second shift and receive a sign-on bonus. Sioux Steel builds farm bins and livestock solutions. Sioux Steel is hiring right now for machine operators and general laborers for both first and second shift. Sioux Steel makes it easy to apply. Go to their ProTech division in Lenox for walk-in interviews Monday through Thursday from 1 till 5, or apply online at siouxsteel.com. Join the Sioux Steel team and work a flexible, family-friendly 4-day work week.
Do you have a pest problem? Got bats, ants, termites? Family owned and operated, Olson's Pest Technicians have had over 50 years experience taking care of pest problems in places across South Dakota, Nebraska, and Iowa. Utilizing brilliant methods such as Centricon bait stations for termites and Vicane treatment for bed bugs. There's no pest too tough for Olson's Pest Technicians. If you have pest problems, call 800-KILL-BUGS.
Fiesta Foods in Beersford is a family-owned grocery store that offers a convenient one-stop shop for everything you need when it comes to groceries. With their weekly ad and their website, you can also find the deals in every aisle. And don't forget about their butcher counter in the back that features the best cuts of meat in the area. Fresh bakery and fresh produce, Fiesta Foods has it all when you're looking to shop in the Beersford area. No matter the season, open 7 days a week. It's Fiesta Foods in Beersford.
Honesty. We try to be honest about everything, and if there's a problem, we try to fix it. We've kept the family name going for 75 years. I think that's something to be very proud of. I'm Mike Weeman from Weeman Land and Auction out of Marion, South Dakota. And my middle name is Earl. I'm named after my grandfather. And being an auctioneer isn't all about how fast you are or how good your chant is. It's how the people appreciate your name and accept your name. He told me that once. So that's a one that I hold pretty close. He'd be proud, I think.
Ag Service Partners is your trusted company for Pioneer seed, chemicals, and crop insurance. Pioneer Seeds has developed and tested products to meet your challenges in the field. Ag Service Partners also has you covered when the white rain comes or anything else you may need with crop insurance. Tested and tried chemicals right here in the area to provide the best yield for your field. Write down the number and contact Ag Service Partners for the best farming season year in and year out.
For over 80 years, Sioux Corporation has been designing and manufacturing industrial pressure washers, steam cleaners, water heaters, water chilling systems, and steam generators to serve the needs of their customers. Sioux Premium Equipment is designed and built with reliability, performance, durability, and user safety as its top priorities. Sioux is locally owned and operated in Beersford and a proud supporter of all things watchdog activities.
When it comes to advertising, reaching the right market while giving back to the school is just plain right. If you're looking for an effective method that reaches a large fan base at once, then here's your ticket with Live Ticket TV. With over 90 schools in the state of South Dakota, we can help you advertise locally with just your home team or reach the region. Plus, a portion of all sales go directly back to the school. Get a hold of Heath Nimke today and let's get started in building your brand with Live Ticket TV.
Out here, you learn that to keep growing, you have to keep changing. CHS and the farmers and ranchers we serve know all about change, because together we've changed agriculture. That's why we're the largest farmer-owned cooperative in the country. So farmers own the system they count on, with advantages at every step. From innovative tools that help crops grow, to grain processing expertise, to energy solutions, we create connections to empower agriculture. Learn more at chsinc.com.
Whether you're trying to be the next best amateur, or if you're like me and pretending you know anything about this game, then the Bridges at Beersford is the best 9-hole course in the area. Ooh, I think I missed him. The Bridges has everything you're looking for in a course, including a casual atmosphere and also a challenge on the greens. And the Bridges has a banquet space available too for your gatherings, so if you aren't into golf, they can still accommodate your needs. Visit their website today and find out more. What? I get as many mulligans as I want.
When the world feels big, a small note can mean everything. Find mental health support at sdbehavioralhealth.gov.
This is what matters. This is beyond X's and O's. This is the difference mutual respect makes. This is what character looks like. This is what defines us in South Dakota. This is sportsmanship. School sports, it's not the outcome that matters most, but the way the games are played. This message presented by the South Dakota High School Activities Association and the South Dakota Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association.
Yeah. Another one. Yep. Man, this town's changed. Yeah. About damn time.
Beersford Telephone is your full-service local telephone company, providing telephone service, sales, high-speed fiber optic internet packages, and professional surveillance systems for both commercial and residential customers. Beersford Telephone also offers the only in-town gig-certified internet provider, which offers the highest speed services. Wanting to upgrade your existing service? Contact Beersford Telephone today and let them get started on your high-speed service. Welcome back to the Sioux Corporation Press Box. Sioux Corporation, the
Welcome, wrestling fans, to a night of wrestling in Beersford, South Dakota, where the Beersford Alcester Hudson Rams will be taking on the Warriors of Sioux Falls, Washington, as well as the Knights from Sioux Falls, O'Gorman. I am Jeff Boom, along with Justin Haneke. How you doing, Justin?
Good. It's good to be back, Jeff. I was glad I got asked to come back and do this again this year.
Yeah, it's been about a year since we've got together and do this, and we're sorry if we got involved here a little bit. We've got a 157 match already get started. O'Gorman Knights will be taking on the Washington Warriors here to get the evening started. And at 157, we've got Slayton Jones and Braden Pupke out here right now, and match has been pretty even so far, with a couple takedowns here and that sort of thing. But Justin, we're bringing in two Sioux Falls schools. Last year when we got together, we had a couple smaller schools come into town, and now we're going to feature two Sioux Falls schools. A lot of good wrestlers from the different schools that are here. One that really stands out is Sheridan from O'Gorman, and we're not going to get to see him tonight because of an illness, but he would be one of the top wrestlers in the state and considered one of the dynamic 12 or whatever they call it would fall into that. So one of the showcase wrestlers. So unfortunately we won't get a chance to see him this evening. However, we should have some good action, and we'll keep you posted here as we go along with the scoring.
Yeah, and it's fun to be able to see some of these these Sioux Falls schools. When I was coming through the system and through Beersford, we were a Class B school back then, so we didn't get to see any of these big schools. Slayton, I see he's got a deep half in there. He's going to get the fall. Just pretty dominant match by Slayton. He was very controlling on his feet and did a great job.
Yeah, it's interesting when you start to look at this. You go back just a few decades ago, it would be pretty uncommon that you would see a school the size of Beersford bring two Sioux Falls schools in. Now, of course, they would meet in different tournaments, from the Lincoln tournaments and some of these others. But now it's just becoming kind of pretty much common. A lot of these schools kind of mix. And Justin, I think you would agree, when you get into sports, your football, your basketball, those types of things, obviously the size of the schools, it matters. You've got a lot more talent, people to pick from, and so your starting five probably looks a little different for a large school than it does for a smaller school. But when it comes to wrestling, it really just comes down to the individual, and with good coaching and conditioning, kids can go pretty far. And when you start looking at wrestling, obviously there's more to choose from, of course. So you're going to see a little bit stronger competition probably in the wrestling room. But for the most part, you can look back over the decades. Your Lincoln McElravies from Phillip. And the list goes on and on. We don't have to go through all of them, but it really doesn't necessarily matter what size of school you're in. Wrestling is one of those individual sports, and it can kind of come from everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's where wrestling is unique too. Is it's a team sport, but it's also an individual sport. So you kind of get in what you put out of it. When you look at some of these bigger A schools and football and stuff, some of their players might only play one way, and so them being that big really is a strong attribute of theirs. But now, when it comes to wrestling, it's a lot more even playing field. So we can hang in there with some of these bigger schools.
Yep. So right now we're at the 165 weight class with Tyler Oinus and Jacob Lingen from Washington, and some early action. Justin, talk about a few things here. If you are a kind of an old traditional wrestler, I guess going back in some time, scoring looks a little different now. And I think there was, just visiting with my brother at one of the wrestling tournaments earlier in the year, takedown ended up being 3 points, and he was like, dude, is takedown's worth 3 points now? So, you want to walk through a couple of those changes?
Yeah, so absolutely. So, they went to that 3-point takedown and then a 4-point near fall, which college had already adapted that. Now high school and then youth wrestling has kind of followed along now. But it just rewards the offensive wrestlers so much more now. When we were younger, you could get 3 takedowns and with 3 escapes, the match is still only 6-3. So now you add in that extra point you get every time, and you can blow the door wide open a lot faster. And not only that, but you can make up a lot more ground. If you get a takedown and 4 near fall, it's a 7-point swing real fast. It just makes guys, I think, wrestle on their feet more importantly, and just be stronger in all positions.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The more explosive, I say wrestling play, so to speak, because that doesn't really a term, but the more explosive wrestling action where you have someone that both wrestlers are on their feet, a takedown that goes right into back points can really change a match. And to your point, if if you were down 8 points, just not that long ago, that was a long road to hoe to try to get those points back. And now you're right back in the game with a takedown, and that leads to your opponent falling on their back. A few of the things too that you mentioned there about the back points, that was one where 2 or 3 was kind of the old rule, and some of that stuff has changed. And I think that it's really, to your point, with 2 wrestlers being on their feet, a takedown at a lot of levels is really where it's at. The person that's the best on their feet is probably the one that's probably your best wrestler, and typically will win the matches. And you should get more points for getting a takedown, because it's not an easy thing to accomplish in a lot of cases. So I think the scoring, changing that up to the wrestling or the collegiate format worked out pretty well. So Oinus there with the fall.
I think it also changed it too. There's that old saying, 1 before 2, where you'd give up an escape before a reversal, which is still true. You still would rather give up 1 instead of 2, but now at least with a 3-point takedown, is if you get reversed, you're still up by 1. So that changes the match a lot more too when you put it in comparison like that.
I think we're going to see a little bit of moving around here. Yep. So we had some moving around here with a typical 175 I'm sorry, we're going to have a little bit of moving around, but we've got O'Gorman right now. We've got someone that's coming in for Sheridan, the way it sounded, and Xander items.
Yeah, I believe it was that.
Oh, Gavin Boyle. There you go.
Up.
Gavin Boyle's bumped up. So I think we'll see some bumping up. And from a birdie that Lane Knutson, Sioux Falls, Washington, is probably one of their best wrestlers, if not their best wrestler on the team. Ranked number 2 in the state. Will probably bump up as well. I've been to a few of these, tries and quads throughout the year, and unfortunately, it's some of these, when you get some really good wrestlers, they're going to get some buys. So you might have 3 teams or 4 teams get together, and someone might only get about 45 seconds worth of wrestling, because they can go out and easily pin an opponent in the first period, and then maybe have 2 matches where they don't even get an opponent. So hopefully we get a chance to see Lane Knutson. But right now we've got was it
Gavin?
Yep, Gavin and Xander going at it right now.
I think that makes it harder too for some of these older guys that maybe need some mat time and or are trying to stay healthy. We're getting towards the end of the grind here. It's been a long season at this point for a lot of them. And, I think that's where the sport of wrestling could pick it up a little bit more. I think our numbers are definitely down as far as the high school level. I mean, it was pretty uncommon when I came through. Now, granted, that's been 10 years ago, but pretty uncommon to have forfeits and stuff. Now I think you're seeing more and more lineups more opened up. They've changed the weight classes and this and that, but I just think that's where wrestling as a whole could improve a little bit, is just by keeping our numbers a little stronger at the high school level.
You're absolutely right. And going to several of these tries in the quads, down in the southeast part of the state, and obviously Sioux Falls schools appear in those, and it is very common that you have buys and open weight classes, and to your point, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, you go back in the 80s, there was a lot of teams that could fill up every single weight class twice over.
Yeah, absolutely.
There was wrestle-offs going on every single week to see who was going to be able to start that week, and now there's times where there's no competition at a weight class. It does give some of these guys some freedoms to move around in their weight classes to get some matches in, but I sure would rather see a duel with both teams, equally stacked with their weight classes. It just makes for a better night of wrestling, but it is what it is. And then you look at teams like Watertown, very dominant this year, lots of good wrestlers. I think some of this just goes back to a cultural type of thing. If your school values wrestling more than it does some of the other sports, you're probably going to get more of them out there. But it is kind of disappointing to see some of the Sioux Falls schools have open slots, considering how, the student enrollment they have. You'd think that we'd be able to fill them up, but we'll see. It seems like the popularity of the sport continues to grow, but it just seems like there's some schools where it just doesn't.
Yeah, I would say women's wrestling has gained a lot of ground over the last few years. I think that's where we've it's improved across the board. Is we have a lot more girls wrestling and more girls tournaments, and that's important. At all aspects. It's important to let them be involved, and I think, back to, not being able to fill lineups, I think it also, held people accountable a little more when you had someone always gunning for your spot versus, a lot of these, teams now, if you're the guy, you're the guy. You might not have anybody behind you that's going to come take your spot anyway. So I think that it'd be nice to see it get back to that. But like you say, Jeff, we're here where we are now, so now it's just enjoy the wrestling we do have.
Yeah, and speaking of girls, we're going to have some matches tonight, and I will tell you, Beersford's got a real good one. And Reese Olson just got her 100th pin as a sophomore. Really good start, early start to her career, and she's just been able to kind of compound wins over and above it. So we'll get a chance to see her tonight, hopefully. But after we get through these varsity matches, we'll probably get to see some girls compete as well. And as you said, that part of the sport has really kind of grown. Some of these schools you come into, and they'll bring in 10, 12. Laverne, Minnesota comes to mind. A real big girl team over there, and so it's fun to watch. The more you kind of start to follow these girls, you can really start to see some amazing technique and the understanding of leverage and those types of things. And then you've got some girls that are just getting into it, so it's really fun to watch them grow into this sport as well. And I think it's been a good thing. I think maybe if you go back 40 years ago, it was a little bit frowned upon. And now it's becoming wildly acceptable, and you'll see it in the Olympic sports and all those types of things, and I just love it.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think it's just important too, because I think girls, I think they can catch up faster at the high school level, whereas sometimes guys that haven't wrestled their entire career and try to start in high school, I think it's harder to bridge that gap. Not always, but sometimes it can be harder to close that gap, where I think girls can start later in their career and still find success. Because I think doing things like gymnastics and things like that before you wrestle is actually very important to building a strong wrestling foundation.
Yeah, you're so true. It's so true. A lot of these, athletes, especially when you get into the schools the size of Beersford, they're doing all three sports, or they're active in all of them. And in some of these larger schools, you can kind of just go in and specialize in one sport. If you're a really good wrestler, you may avoid the gridiron in the fall to try to avoid any types of injuries, because you alluded to it earlier. You're in that point of the season where guys are a little dinged up, and it may not look that way, but I can promise you 75% of these guys are dealing with something. It just becomes, it's such a physical grind throughout the entire season. As we get here into tournament time, a lot of these guys are just trying to get through, and shoulders and knees and some of these things start to really add up. And if you can come into it healthy, good for you, and you've got your best self going into that tournament time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a long season. Wrestling, it's a grinder sport. You don't get a lot of, there's not a playoff or anything like that. I mean, you're constantly grinding and going after it, and you have to do that to stay in, peak shape for this sport. But it does get to be just a long season, most everybody. But I mean, everybody's dealing with the same thing, as far as that goes. I mean, we're all on the same platforms outside of a major injury. Everybody's kind of working through the same thing. It's really cool to see, like, at the college level, how many guys are wrestling through, like, pretty substantial injuries, kind of gritting it out. I mean, Spencer Lee comes to mind a couple years ago, wrestling with 2 torn ACLs. I mean, that's just pretty impressive for guys like that to be able to go out there and still compete with that kind of injury.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And speaking of injuries, we got Gavin Boyle. Kind of had a kind of a clumsy fall as they went out of bounds. A lot of times you don't think about that, but it's two bodies come down, and there's knees sticking straight up in the air, and a lot of things can get turned. It looked like maybe he had a bit of a head injury over there. They're attending to his forehead, but let's talk about that with Spencer Lee. There was some people that really didn't like what he said there a few years ago. He wins a collegiate national championship, comes in and says, hey, I just did this with 2 bad knees. Basically, like my MCLs and ACLs are both torn. And, you can look at it and say, what a warrior to go in through that. But there was still a lot of critics out there and said, well, you're really trying to convince kids to go and wrestle through their injuries. And, to each their own. I'm not going to discredit what he did. It maybe wasn't a shining example of what you want every high school kid to dream of, but it's possible, right? You can go in and still kind of gut through that, and the quality of wrestler that he was still able to finish a national champion, even though he had two bad knees.
Looks like we're going to get back to action here now.
So we're getting close. There's only a minute left. Getting close here to a tech fall. Justin, maybe you can talk a little bit about the point systems with that to get to a tech fall.
Yeah, so a tech fall, obviously, for anybody that's not 100% familiar with the sport, it's a 15-point advantage over your opponent, and that scores you 5 dual team points. And then a fall will score you 6, team dual points, and then a major is 4, and then your just regular decision is 3. So lots of times, like tonight, it might not come into as much of a factor with the some lighter lineups, but a lot of times, this tech versus this major could be a huge swing point. You take that 1 point away, and that could be huge. So it's always important to go out there and put as many points on the board as you possibly can.
Yeah, and Item got in on a really deep double leg there and just wasn't able to finish. Boyle was able to get a cross face in, keep him at bay, and then able to convert that into some points. And I think it was enough there to tip the scales in his favor for the tech fall. So good match. Now we've got let's just see here. We might be bumping up into the. We'll see who we've got. Some of these names are going to get moved around, so we'll have to just wait and who they call out to the mat. Looks like O'Gorman's going to forfeit. All right, so the Warriors are going to bring somebody out. Aiden Smith, he's going to pick up a forfeit. And then the wrestler I alluded to earlier, Lane Knutson, he's going to be moving up into weight classes to try to get himself a match tonight. And we'll see if who O'Gorman's going to bring out.
And the tides have kind of turned this year. As you look down the team rankings as far as that goes for the A's this year, Brandon Valley's been atop of that here for quite a few years now. So it's kind of cool to see the changing of the tide and get some other teams come out here and try to take that top spot this year.
Yep. So Lane Knutson moved up. He's going to be wrestling 215 tonight. Rip Simmonsma, Jr. from O'Gorman, will be the competitor. Lane ranked number 2 in the state this year. If you're a Beersford fan and you're watching this, you would probably recognize if you were in school sometime there in the 90s, his mom would be a Trish Larson, if you remember that name, and this would be Larry and June Larson's grandson. So he does have some ties to Beersford, but I would expect Lane to have his, probably have his hands full here tonight, as he's ranked number 2, but Rip is ranked number 5 in the state. So this match, 2 really good wrestlers ranked in the state. This should be a good competition for both of them. So I'm glad to see that Lane moved up to get some competition as we get closer here to tournament time.
What's also important too, especially for, guys like this is it might be good for Lane to wrestle somebody a little bigger than him. You can try it, and you gotta change your whole strategy around. It might not be the way he's used to wrestling, but he's got to adapt and overcome it, and then that'll go a long ways for him come postseason, being able to wrestle someone bigger like this. It's a really nice ankle pick he hit there. Would have liked to see him hold on to the ankle just a little bit longer, but it was really good transition by both wrestlers there.
When you talk about him moving up, some wrestling matches in the past come to mind. I can't remember the name right now. Beersford wrestler that went to wrestle Hutmaker.
Yeah, Nick Casperson.
Yeah, Casperson. Two really good wrestlers in the state. Hutmaker, a little bit of legend still, as he's a nose guard there for Nebraska. But had a kid that said, "Hey, I'm gonna put it all on the line. Probably going to get a state championship if I stay at the weight class that I'm at, but I'm willing to bump up and go on and wrestle the best that's in the weight class above me." And Nick didn't end up with a win, but it was kind of an interesting match, and giving up, I'm going to guess, probably 50-60 pounds that night.
That's a lot.
And so, moving up in talent. And we talked about this earlier with when you've got a wrestling room that isn't completely full, sometimes when you get a really good wrestler at a specific weight and he doesn't have strong competition above him or below him, that's harder. And how many times have you seen this? High school level, college level, you'll have someone that's, a tremendous wrestler at one weight, and there's 3 in a row or 4 in a row that are all really good. Penn State comes to mind, Iowa, some of those schools. You just kind of stack them on, and it's just because of the fact that one wrestler is so good and the other ones are starting to pick up other things, and all of a sudden that just starts to stretch, and before you know it, you've turned 3 great wrestlers into 3 excellent wrestlers because one guy, rises to the top.
Well, absolutely, and Penn State's the prime example of that, being the front runner. They dueled Iowa last Friday night, and that was the number 1 and 2 ranked teams in the country, and Penn State just ran away with it.
It wasn't even close, was it?
It was 30-8, I think was the final dual score. I mean, just incredible. But, I mean, their backups could go be All-Americans, potentially win national titles. I mean, it's pretty incredible. I mean, everyone in their lineup could be the guy at any point. You can't slouch at any point because those guys are all gunning for your top spot. So that's what good competition makes better competition. So it's pretty fun to watch.
Yeah, so when you get in these wrestling rooms, and it's unfortunate if you don't have kind of a stacked room, you have to move around in weight classes to wrestle good competition. And right now Lane's doing a great job on top here, applying a lot of pressure on Rip, really holding on to that arm, trying to get it in a position where he can try to get a turn. And I like what he's doing on top there. It's good technique when you got a really solid wrestler down below and you can kind of keep his face in the mat. That's a hard thing to do. And he's taking his time. He's got the arm, behind his back now. He's trying to work another position, maybe trying to see if Rip opens up a half.
Kind of an interesting stalling call there on top. I thought he was doing a pretty good job of keeping the motion active, but apparently the ref wants to see a little more action than that.
Yeah, that was interesting. He got all the way to the point where he got the arm back and took his time. And I don't know what else you would expect from somebody, especially when you get into these weight classes. There's a lot of strength that's involved to try to get people to move their arms. The 200-pound guys. It's not easy to take an arm and put it behind somebody's back. So he's going to go right back to it. He found some success. I don't think he's going to care about the stalling call at this point because he knows this is probably how he's going to get him to his back. And right now he's running out of time, but he's really getting himself in a good position for a turn. And he's going to lose that right at the end. But, boy, that was close.
We're really curious to see where Rip goes here in the third period after just getting ridden out there. But again, like we talked, that 2-point reversal is also critical now because the takedown wins this match.
Yep. Yeah, it was good. Simmonsma did the right thing there. Just after getting rid for an entire period, you're not going to go back down to the bottom again, especially when you almost got turned. So he's going to go back to his feet. Like you just said, takedown here. You can get up by a point. Even allows you some comfort there in the event if you get him down. If he gets an escape, at least you're not down in points at that time. You're going to be tied up. So this should be a nice, eventful last minute and 40 here we have in this match.
Yeah, I think Rip just needs to really kind of start to put the pressure on here. Obviously, he's got some work to do, but I think that he needs to really try to get to. He hasn't really found a whole lot of his offense yet. I think Lane took most of the shots there in the first period, and then he got reversed obviously in the second. So I would say he needs to try to get back to what he does best, so he can work his way back in this match here.
Yeah, both wrestlers built fairly similarly. A little lengthier, longer arms. And a lot of times that is pretty beneficial when you're going to take a shot, try, get your hands behind an ankle and those types of things. So, as you said, Simmonsman really hasn't found his offense yet. Lane's kind of been driving the action. You can see here he's trying to get one of those ankle picks again. He had some early success with that, and as you said, he wasn't able to finish one, but right now he's Rip's kind of letting Lane.
And see, there's the game changer with the new rule change now too, Jeff, is that backing out stall call there. So now it's a 2-1 match just like that. So that stall call becomes ever so critical that Lane got there in the second period.
And that's one technique that, once again, you just said that you really didn't see so much in the past. Maybe you get a stalling call, but sometimes even if you're not forcing the action, so to speak, as long as you're moving your opponent backwards and he's not circling back into the center of the mat, you can pick up one of those points, and we just saw it right there like you said. And so this last 30 seconds is big. Simmonsman still needs to get the takedown in order to take this match, so he's going to have to get really aggressive here, take some chances. He's going to push him back again. Now Gorman's asking for another point. And he's locking up a cradle.
The cradle locked up. Typically when that's locked,
he's going to get his 2 points. Now he's going to have him locked up, and this is going to be a big win, folks. Rip Simmonsma is going to pull a win off with the last 20 seconds. This is what wrestling's all about, right? You're down by a point. You're able to take a high-quality kid, not only get him a takedown, but also get him locked up so there's no chance for an escape at the same time. So a great match there. That was good action.
Yeah, it's fun to see that. You know, hats off to Lane for coming up and taking that match
Absolutely.
tonight, you know, and giving Ripper everything he can handle.
Yeah, he looks like he's a little banged up too. He's been, kind of leaning over. So I don't know what happened in there, but it does look like he maybe had something with his back or his neck. And I suppose once he got locked up in that position, but he's going to take an exit. He's heading over the garbage can. So there might be a little more going on over there than what we speak. I don't need to look over there anymore. I'll just say that. But okay, we're bringing out the heavyweights. We got Dan Vasquez from O'Gorman and Miles Yedegasu. Sorry, and I think Miles. I know I've seen some matches. Wasn't real familiar, but he is in the honorable mention here for the weight class. Oh, and he's going to be on his back early. This is right here an opportunity for Velasquez. If he can get himself on the other side and get some leverage, he's going to hang out there and try to keep him where he's at. But at this point, he just got a favor handed to him, and now it looks like he's going to be in position here for a pin. So we'll see if this match ends up being over a little sooner than maybe what we expected. But both wrestlers here are in the honorable mention for being ranked in the state. But right now, Velasquez is totally in control with the takedown to his back, and Miles hasn't quite figured out how to get himself out of this position yet. So if he can get back to his stomach and get started over, we might have some continued action. But right now,
just a really good job by Dan on top of just not giving up on that. And there got it.
Real aggressive, staying on him, got on his toes. That was a pretty impressive win. That's one thing with the heavyweights. A lot of times those matches can end up pretty quick. You get in these smaller weights, these guys are a little wiry. Tougher to get pinned sometimes on these smaller guys, but a lot of times with the bigger guys, you put 285 pounds on another man's chest, and it gets hard to get out of that. So, nice win there for O'Gorman. So we're going to move back down into the smaller weight classes now. Probably get to see a little bit faster action as these smaller wrestlers come out. So we're going to see, what we should see here is William O'Connor. I don't know, we have a slight delay here from O'Gorman, and Silas Williams from Washington. So looks like we got a small delay here for a second, so we'll just pause for a moment and wait for the action to resume.
Looks like we just had a forfeit there.
Yep, just had a forfeit. So we don't have anybody coming out on the 106, so we're going to move into the 113. So Seeley picks up the forfeit, and now I would guess we're going to see Colin Heaney from O'Gorman and Blake Bast from Washington. Two freshmen. No, I'm seeing the last name on O'Gorman as O'Connor.
O'Connor must be coming up from 106 to get a match then, I suppose. Because he's going to have Owen later on, so I suppose maybe he wants to get his lungs blown open. A lot of times these smaller guys are cutting some weight, so he probably just wants to get his lungs blown open here before he goes and wrestles Owen later on tonight.
Yeah, Beersford's going to feature one of their better wrestlers tonight at the 113 weight class. Ranked, let's see, where is Owen right now?
He's third at 106 now.
Ranked third, yeah.
He's down at 106 now.
Oh, that's right. Yep, he's ranked. That's right. He's dropped weight. So we'll probably see some movement around here. But to your point, maybe for this duel, they'll leave some of that flexibility for him to move around. But anyone that'll have to go in and face him will have a challenge tonight for sure.
And I believe they changed the weight certification rules this year too. When I was growing up, you had to make scratch weight at least once, to where now after Christmas, I think if you go down, you can just make the 2-pound allowance weight, so 106 turns into 108. You don't ever have to make 106, and I think now you don't have to have a certain match count. You had to have a certain percentage of your matches at the weight below you if you wanted to go down when I was in high school. I think they kind of did away with that now, so be curious to see how that changes some of these kids dropping down after Christmas, and it'll be exciting to watch.
Yeah, that's a good point. You didn't really see that often back in the day. I think there was a 1-pound allowance somewhere in there, and then if you're in a 2-day tournament, give an extra pound the next day, just because you got to have some kids will fuel up after a few matches in the day. But yeah, once you start to change the rules and you let that 2-pound increase happen after Christmas, some of these smaller guys, especially, they're able to catch that. We're going to take a commercial break here as we get into the next match as we're waiting here. So we'll get back to you shortly.
Starting the first bank in South Dakota was the easy part, earning the confidence of local farmers, helping families account for their dreams, and securing the future for countless businesses took us a little longer. We owe it to the hard workers, big dreamers, and forward thinkers out there. Thank you for making South Dakota a great place to call home.
For healthier crops and stronger yields, count on Nutrien Ag Solutions. By partnering with the leader in plant nutrition, you'll have access to innovative products and unmatched service that deliver impact and efficiency to every acre. Healthier crops, happier growers. Lead the field this season and beyond. Find your local crop consultant at nutrienagsolutions.com.
Welcome back to the Sioux Corporation Press Box. Sioux Corporation, the industry leader in manufacturing water heaters and chilling systems, steam generators, pressure washers, and steam cleaners.
All right, folks, we got track wrestling back on track. We'll see. But we're going to start the action over again with O'Connor wrestling for O'Gorman and Blake Bast. So we got a change. We're going to be moving around some weight classes here, so you have to probably bear with us a little bit as we're going to see some different wrestlers come out, probably trying to win this duel. So right now we've got the O'Gorman Knights up 27. All right, so Blake Bast and O'Connor are going to wrestle here at 113. Warriors 11, Knights 27. 113 weight class.
Pretty competitive duel so far, really. I mean, they've kind of both traded blows here back and forth, so it's been fun to watch.
Yeah, that pin at heavyweight, makes a big difference. Anytime you have your heavyweights go out, you just don't know what's going to happen. Pins will happen more often in those bigger weight classes, it seems like, and that can really kind of turn the tide. But we should see some good wrestling action here with the lighter weights. Like we said earlier, unfortunately, we got a really good wrestler from O'Gorman that won't be competing tonight in Sheridan. It sounds like he got sick, and so we won't get a chance to see him this evening. But we'll keep moving on here. Nice takedown by O'Connor.
And you can see now how much more apt guys are to cut people right away, especially if they know they're really good on their feet, just because you can score points so fast from your feet, which, again, could be too. He's just trying to get a good workout in and blow his lungs open. So I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, the days of I'm going to score two, give you one, score two, give you one, and then try to get a tech fall, it would take a considerable amount of time in order to do it. You'd have to go in, get some back points, and then turn them loose. And now guys don't even really bother. They just go right back to action on their feet. And if you know that you can get a takedown, like I said, you're just going to go ahead and get your lungs blown open, get a sweat going, get yourself in the groove, and be ready for the next match. And usually turn a kid and try to get a pin in that first or second, late first or middle of the second period.
Now that we get into these lower weights again, we're going to see a lot more leg riding, more work from the hips, a lot less work out on the arms. Typically, is I would say the more lighter guy style of wrestling. So it's cool to see how it kind of changes as you go from the lower weights to the upper weights, as their tools and their toolbox kind of change a little bit.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people will say they get into the heavyweights and some of the upper weight classes. You probably see it more in high school where the matches aren't as exciting. I get that because the action isn't there, but it isn't as if those two are dancing bears out there. Typically, it's still a lot of work when you got 200-pound guys that are still moving and working on each other's necks and heads and wrists and all of that. But it is completely different styles. You're absolutely correct.
It's incredible when you look at the heavyweight field this year for Division I wrestling. I mean, you have obviously Gable Stevenson's back again, and then Wyatt Hendrickson and a lot of these guys they're doing backflips after the matches. It's absolutely incredible how athletic some of these heavyweights at the Division I level are starting to be.
Yeah, premier athletes. I mean, these guys, like I said, they can do some things that you have some people in the lesser weight classes couldn't do. I would say a lot of them, the explosiveness. I would think that, majority of those guys probably can two-hand dunk basketballs, even though they're not basketball players, but extreme athletes that are just able to go out and do that. And you've probably seen, a little bit of that with like a Hutmaker, doing the wrestling and then also doing college football and still not a premier wrestler at that level. So you can just understand the level of athleticism that it takes in order to wrestle those heavyweights, especially at a collegiate level.
Yeah, absolutely. It just takes a lot, but it's just gotten fun to watch because the whole the idea of heavyweight being maybe boring where it used to be now. It's just changed so much now, and then that leads good examples for the younger generation. Just more and more action even at your upper weights, just because these guys at that elite level are doing it too.
I think O'Connor's going to try to finish this match now. He's probably had enough wrestling at this point. And he was able to collect the fall. He looked very patient, very in control that whole match. I think he knew where he was at. But we'll get a chance, hopefully, to see Blake here in later rounds against one of the Beersford opponents. So we're going to move on to 120. We'll just have to listen in and see if there's any changes. This looks like O'Gorman's going to have. Okay, Colin Heaney. All right, so Washington's going to stay with their wrestler that they have at 120 with Salamana Idris, and Colin Heaney moved up a weight class to wrestle there from O'Gorman. So we'll see if the moving around pays off.
Yeah, Washington's going to need. They're starting to fall behind in this duel now. They're going to really need to make some big stuff happen in these next couple weight classes if they're going to work their way back in this duel.
I just got in really good single leg there and just was not able to finish, and probably a smart move to back out and start over again because he was, another long, deep shot there from Heaney. Both of them getting real aggressive here on their feet.
Just really tough to shoot from, it's shooting from a lot of space. Those are really, really hard shots to finish when you're, I always tell my little kids, you should be able to at least touch their head when you go to take those shots. Not that there's anything wrong. Some guys can do it, but it's definitely a lot harder when you get stretched out like that to finish that.
Well, and sometimes I think when you've wrestled most of the season and you've had maybe some wrestlers that weren't as talented as you get away with some things that you can't when you start to wrestle more of I don't want to say quality kid, but I think you know what I mean as far as talent-wise on the mat. And so some of those bad habits will carry over, and it'll cost you some points later on when you're not careful. But yeah, taking a shot from 18 inches away from headspace is usually a bad idea. Will end up points in the other person. So Idris right now in control on top, working an arm bar, putting a lot of pressure on the hips. Looking to he may have a turn here coming up, and he has got a deep.
Pretty incredible. Yeah. He was just relentless on his feet. I mean, it was shot after shot after shot. And he just, I think, kind of wore Heaney down and he got to what he was good at.
Yeah, and that was a nice pin. He really got Heaney's arm, stretched out. Really wasn't anywhere for him to go. It was going to be basically fighting off your back for the next minute, and that was a nice win for Solmana. All right, going on to 126. So Easton Scheidt's going to look like he moved up a weight class, and he's going to pick up the forfeit. And O'Gorman might be sending out another wrestler without a match. $132 is a forfeit. Minor picks up the forfeit. Moving into the 138 weight class. Does look like both wrestlers, from what I can tell here, look like we've got both wrestlers that are going to stay at that weight.
Really start to cruise through this duel when you catch, a few opens like that. So really speed things along.
So Miles Point, 8th grader, wrestling at O'Gorman. Nope, I'm sorry. Nope, someone moved. They've got Lee. So Keanu Lee is wrestling, and I'm going to, I did not catch, but I'm going to say Morgado is what I'm guessing that they moved. I don't think they moved that weight class on there, so looks like Lee moved up. So there's going to be some moving around, so apologize. Sometimes I'm not familiar with all the wrestlers there, so. But Lee in a nice single leg is going to pick up his 3 points there.
And I know we touched on this earlier, Jeff, before we were live, but it's also kind of when you have these smaller schools, it's cool to see 8th graders like this in the lineup. They get in action young.
Yeah.
He's going out and doing a great job. I mean, he's going to probably get the fall here as he did. So that's what's also cool about. It stinks the wrestling's kind of down, but it gives younger kids an opportunity to get into the. I mean, he'll have 5 years of competing under his belt by the time he's a senior. So.
Yep. And that was a nice win. And it looked pretty good. So let's see. We're going to have. We'll just have to kind of keep following along. So they might be moving some people in and out here on the O'Gorman. All right. So now we're back on track here. So Zach Schuler, 9th grader from O'Gorman, taking on Micah Idem, 9th grader from Sioux Falls, Washington. So we got a couple freshmen here squaring off. Knight's totally in control right now as far as the duel. Really no chance for Washington to impossible for them mathematically to come back in and win this. But hopefully we get a fun, interesting match here as we kind of finish this one up.
Well, Gorman has been very aggressive on their feet tonight. They've done a great job of going after their opponents right away. Not a lot of matches where they sat and waited to get taken down. I mean, they kind of pushed the pace all night long. It's impressive to watch. That must be something they really focus on over there.
Yeah, we talked about this earlier too. When you start to look at the wrestling culture, and a lot of this will just come down to the wrestling room, the coaches, your conditioning, and all those types of things. And O'Gorman looks pretty good, I think, and they're kind of checking the box and all those things right now. So be an interesting duel when we get to watch O'Gorman and Beersford as well. So I'm excited to see what happens here as we go into the rest of the evening. But O'Gorman's got some really solid kids here.
Yeah, I've kind of gotten to know, Jeff Nielsen over there is one of the coaches for Washington. I've gotten to know him through the youth club and stuff. So he does both youth and the high school, which I think is probably really important as far as building a culture like that, where he can kind of start it when they're young and work it all the way up until they're at this level. So it's kind of cool to see him be able to do both.
So Idem in a pitting position, probably not quite deep enough yet to actually pick up the fall. Looks he might be working his way back into that position. Now he's locking things up a little tighter.
Yeah, he needed to get his hips off. Hips on top there. He wasn't probably going to get the fall. He was getting way better off out front in the position he's in now.
Going to run out of time unless he can pull something off here in the next 7 seconds. But right now it looks like Schuler's probably going to be able to fight this off and get himself into the second period. Yeah, I saw shite on the back of his, so I was kind of surprised. So I don't know if there was some singlets moved around or.
Yeah, I heard him yelling Schuler, so he must have just maybe forgot his singlet or something and had to do a little swapperoonie tonight. He's just basically just got to break that lock at this point. He's going to end up with this reversal here.
Yeah, so Micah struggling here right now to find some points. Schuler's back on top. Looks like he's going to start working a crossface, put the legs in, get another turn, kind of get himself back in the position that he was in as they finished the first period.
Yeah, he clearly feels really comfortable with, double boots in, which some guys, especially guys with length, that works out really well and they can stretch their opponents out. And he seems to want to be there. That's where he wrestles the most comfortable.
Yeah, and you'll find, a lot of wrestlers have a specific style and they're very comfortable. And when they know they're on top and they feel comfortable, as you said, with legs in, either both legs in or one leg in. And when you're on the bottom, there's really not a whole lot you can do once you've given up that position. And so you're kind of subject to probably turns like this, and as much as probably doesn't turn into a pin with those positions, it can lead to it once you've got them turned. A lot of times you can get your legs out and then get yourself off to the side and apply enough pressure. But I think right now he just wants to continue to score points and probably tech fall.
Yeah, I mean, he's only one turn away at this point. Again, like we talked, you can score points so fast. It just doesn't take a lot of action to really get out to a 12-hole lead pretty fast.
So we're winding down the second period. See if we end up going into number 3.
Especially when they got doubles in, Jeff. It just gets really hard to do anything with your hips. But in a situation like this, the top wrestler really has to stay active so he doesn't get in trouble. But it looks like he's going to just get enough.
Yep.
No, not quite.
Oh.
Only a 2 count.
Yep, he only gets the 2. So awfully close, but we'll just see one more period potentially here of action. We'll see if one takedown obviously would finish it up. Long shot there by Idem.
Yeah, in this situation, I would have liked to have seen him go for something a little more upper body, I think. I mean, it's going to take a lot of – been kind of out-wrestled the whole match. I think this is kind of where you go for home run time and try to see if you can catch him in a headlock or a front headlock or something big. I just think it's going to take a lot of offense that he's been lacking so far to come back in this match one takedown at a time.
You're right. A lot of times you'll see that someone's down and you see him take a kind of a wild shot, and it's like that was probably the easiest one to defend, where if you just come in and try to be more of a mauler, get somebody a little off balance, maybe you get lucky, get them to their back and try pull something off and maybe get a kind of a pin, or I always like to call it kind of a sloppy pin, where it's like, hey, I was way down but I end up winning the match. But that's wrestling. It doesn't matter if it's 12-0, or it's 12-11. Putting an opponent on their back and finishing them off is one thing. So, as you said, sometimes you like to see a little different approach, but either way, Schuler ends up with a win on that one. We're going to see Holden Height, senior from O'Gorman at 150, and Stephen Antillen here at 150 for the Washington Warriors.
And, a lot of that's just stuff that'll come with age. Those last match, they were both just freshmen. So those are things I think that as you grow and develop, you just kind of find your go-tos in a situation like that further along the line.
Yep, and Height coming in 7th ranked in the state right now. You can see he's pretty aggressive, winning deep here for a double leg, went out of bounds. They're going to start over, but really long and lanky wrestler here. You can see that he likes to use his length, and he's kind of not just sizing him up, but kind of finding his range there as he's putting his hand on his head, and gives him kind of a gauge on where he can take that long shot. But those long arms will come in handy when you take those shots.
Yeah, I'd just like to see him create a little better angles there. I mean, he's trying to shoot right through his opponent, and that's even with that length, which there he did a great job of finding his opening. With that first shot, he kind of tried to shoot through the arms, and that's, again, no matter what level you are or how big you are, that's a pretty tough shot to try to complete there.
Yeah, that one he kind of sucked him in, did it again, kind of caught him with his momentum coming forward, stepping into it. And that's a hard thing for wrestlers to kind of understand. It's like these shots, there's a setup to it. sometimes you don't even have to touch the other opponent to get the setup. It's just pulling them in to get the momentum coming forward and then release that shot. And I've got a freshman right now that's wrestling there for Beersford, and still a lot of learning to do. And we talk a lot about this too. Is like you've got to find angles and you've got to find different ways of leverage in order to pull off a shot or a throw or anything like that. It's not just going out and just taking shots. The other person on the other side isn't just going to stand there and be a wrestling partner. They're actually going to go in a defensive position. So, well, that'll wrap it up for O'Gorman and Washington, folks. Knights win that duel 62-17. We're going to take a break here as we allow the Beersford L. Sister Hudson Watchdogs to kind of get warmed up, and a break here. And so we'll be back with you in a little bit.
Agriculture is like no other business, which makes Farm Credit Services of America like no other lender. Owned by the farmers and ranchers we serve, our customers have a voice in how we work, a stake in what we do, and share in our success. Discover a lender that works for you at Farm Credit Services of America.
Farming is more than a livelihood. It's a legacy. Simplot was founded by a hardworking farmer like you over 90 years ago, and we've been growing America's farms for generations. With local crop advisors grounded in your success, Simplot Grower Solutions is in your fields and by your side. We dig in deep to pinpoint what you need, where you need it, when you need it, even when the forecast is unpredictable.
Fentanyl is a powerful synthetic opioid, up to 100 times stronger than morphine. Even a tiny amount can be deadly. It's often mixed with other drugs without your knowledge, increasing your risk of overdose. Protect yourself and your loved ones and avoid unknown substances. Stay informed, stay safe, and remember, one pill can kill. For more information on fentanyl prevention, visit your local health resource or speak to a healthcare professional today. This message was brought to you by the Great Plains Tribal Opioid Response, so that the people may live.
Shields All Sports Store is your one stop for everything outdoors, with local experts eager to guide you through the widest selection of brands. Your one stop for exercise gear to get working out or fashions for going out. And your one stop for footwear in your size, your style, yours to take home today. Shields, employee owned, community minded, and like no place you've ever shopped before.
Ace is the place with the helpful hardware, folks.
Ace is the only hardware retailer that carries Benjamin Moore paint at over 3,800 stores. With Benjamin Moore's premium quality, you can be confident you're getting the best. You can buy in store or order what you need online for curbside pickup or delivery. When you want the best, Benjamin Moore paint from Ace at participating stores.
Find Benjamin Moore paint and other great products at your locally owned Olson's Ace Hardware in Beersford.
CoreCares helps individuals stay at home by offering caregiving, nursing, and medical alert systems in over 55 communities in South Dakota. Specializing in tasks like bathing, meal prep, and medication setups, our well-trained staff delivers exceptional care. We invest in our team through customized training and comprehensive benefits. To learn more about job opportunities or services, visit our website at corecares.com. CoreCares, proudly serving our community.
Make a big impact on your land for less at Grossenberg Implement. Right now, used planters and air seeders are aggressively marked down and have great financing options for those who qualify. Stop by any of Grossenberg's 9 locations in South Dakota, Nebraska, and Wyoming, or check out used planters and air seeders online at grossenberg.com. Grossenberg Implement, where service is the other half of a great deal.
The innocence of youth. Is there anything any better? But soon they'll be in high school and facing all the same challenges you faced. How to make friends, how to fit in, how to be cool. We want our children to have everything they'll need to live fulfilling and productive lives. Make sure the kids in your family are among the more than 57,000 participants here in South Dakota who take part in high school sports or activities.
Classics Lounge in downtown Beersford is your destination for fun with darts, pool, and to catch all the action no matter what game it is. The colder season is here. Keep your perfect golf swing by using the indoor golf simulator. From the gridiron to the court, Classics is your spot to catch all activities of Watch Dogs Live. Ready to cool off with a cold one? Classics Lounge is always ready to serve them up with a bite to eat too. That's Classics Lounge in downtown Beersford.
When life gets hard and our thoughts get too much to bear, finding the resiliency within us can help us find healing. The 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline provides 24/7 free support for anyone in suicidal distress or emotional crisis. All texts and calls are anonymous and connect you to local resources that uphold cultural values and pave the way to healing. Find the strength within you. Find the strength within our culture. Reach out if you need help today.
Customer service is more than just a word. It's what Jensen Insurance Agency and Auto Owners Insurance does every day.
We have more companies than most agencies in town. We're able to find a competitive market for each family. We're able to farm that out, quote it with each of our carriers, including Auto Owners Insurance, of course, and see where it best fits.
In Sioux Falls, Beersford, and Elk Point, go to jensenagencyonline.com to find out more. Jensen Insurance Agency, building relationships since 1944.
In times like these, it's good to know there's a place where people know who you are, no matter how long you've been gone. A place where the smells of home cooking are still in the air, where a simple wave warms your heart, and sharing stories is just a way of life. It's good to be home. Agraria Insurance Company, protecting what's important in life. Contact your local Agraria Insurance Company agent.
Are you stuck in a job that gives you no family life? Work for Sioux Steel and enjoy a 4-day work week. Choose from first or second shift and receive a sign-on bonus. Sioux Steel builds farm bins and livestock solutions. Sioux Steel is hiring right now for machine operators and general laborers for both first and second shift. Sioux Steel makes it easy to apply. Go to their ProTech division in Lennox for walk-in interviews Monday through Thursday from 1 till 5, or apply online at siouxsteel.com. Join the Sioux Steel team and work a flexible, family-friendly 4-day work week.
Do you have a pest problem? Got bats, ants, termites? Family owned and operated, Olson's Pest Technicians have had over 50 years experience taking care of pest problems in places across South Dakota, Nebraska, and Iowa. Utilizing brilliant methods such as Centricon bait stations for termites and Vicane treatment for bed bugs, there's no pest too tough for Olson's Pest Technicians. If you have pest problems, call 800-KILL-BUGS.
Welcome back to the Sioux Corporation Press Box. Sioux Corporation, the industry leader in manufacturing water heaters and chilling systems, steam generators, pressure washers, and steam cleaners.
Welcome back, wrestling fans. We're about to kick off the next match. Well, we thought we were going to be starting with 170, but it looks like we're going to start out with 165. So we got freshman Corbin Boom taking on Tyler Oinus, senior from O'Gorman. And so let's have a slight delay here before we get this match started. So Oinus coming in as a senior. And Corbin coming in as a freshman. Corbin's really, this year it's kind of a learning year for him, as far as for Beersford. Really wrestling probably a weight class or two above what he should be. But, it's learning year. You get these freshmen. And one thing you're going to see tonight with Beersford is a lot of younger wrestlers. There's a lot of things to be hopeful here with the Beersford wrestling program over the next several years. Kind of loaded up with freshmen, and so you'll kind of see that as the night goes on. But Corbin's in this thing kind of reminds me of my sophomore year. At 15 years old, wrestling 167, you get to face a lot of the kids that are a little bit older. a little bit bigger, stronger, and in some of those schools, it was one of their best athletes on the team, the football team, and then you come out and they kind of work you over. So Corbin's seeing some of that this year. But it's exciting, once we get through this weight class and then the Isaac Bowden, we have some empty slots on the Beersford team. We're not completely full this year, and so we're going to see a few forfeits tonight, unfortunately, with Beersford. But get into the lighter weight class, we're going to see some good action tonight.
Yeah, like we've talked, Jeff, it's good because they're going to have a lot of years of experience in by the time they're, seniors, but also that team chemistry they're going to have. I mean, it's pretty rare to have as many freshmen start as they do that are going to get to wrestle together for, 4 or 5 years. That's going to be pretty special by the time they're a senior group out there.
Yep, so we got a stop there, potentially dangerous there with the chicken wing or the arm bar coming in the back there. It got a little too high, so the ref stopped it, and they'll start over. Right now, Oinus is up 6-1 as we come down here to the end of the first period.
He's just done a good job on his feet. He kind of got to, his takedown both times. You can tell he's just got more experience. He's just been at it a little bit longer, and it's really helping him out here right now.
Yeah, and like I said, it's one of those learning years for Corbin. A little uncomfortable on his feet yet. Doesn't really have a good understanding of setting up shots. And I think some of that too is being a freshman. You don't feel like you can go in and really take anybody up top and kind of wrestle more from the position of, hey, I'm going to try to throw you or move you around. Just doesn't have the strength to do that with some of these kids that are 17 and 18 years old. And so you start to lose some confidence when you get out there. So this will be a good year. Once he gets through this season, you can kind of reevaluate. But the one downside is when you're a little bit larger kid or heavier kid when you're younger, usually don't stop growing. So the next year you could end up wrestling in at 90 pounds potentially or 175, and it doesn't get any easier when you move into those bigger weight classes either. So some of this, like you said, it's a learning opportunity, and you're going to take some lumps, and some kids have some great success from 7th grade all the way through senior year, and there's other ones that you got to go through some lumps, and I can relate to some of those times. But Oinus right now, it looks like he's got things locked up, just hasn't quite figured out quite yet how to get this turned over, and I'm not sure if there we go. I was going to say he's kind of got to pop the hips if he's going to get Boom on his back.
Yeah, he was kind of trying to hold on to the leg, which I just don't think really was going to work out in that situation that he had.
So Oinus picks up a fall.
You know what Corbin did do really well there is he really goes out and attacks the ties right away, which is a really good sign, that he's not, backing up, wanting to back out of the situation. He went into that match wanting to go wrestle, and, a lot to build on there.
So we're going to move into the 175, and we mentioned earlier, if you're just joining the live ticket broadcast, Keenan Sheridan, who's one of the top wrestlers in the state, at any weight class, sick tonight, so he's not going to be able to wrestle. So they have Boyle coming out to wrestle Isaac Bowden. Bowden is the lone senior on this program, and as I said earlier, this is a very young RAMS wrestling team with a lot of hope as we get in there, and you'll see some talent as we get into these lower weight classes. But we'll see if Isaac can try to figure out a win here and finish his lone home wrestling evening as a senior here, finish out his wrestling career in the Beersford Gymnasium before tournament time. See if he can pick up a win.
It's crazy to me that they only have one. I only had one last year too. I feel like when I came through high school, we had 4 or 5 home ones every year, but I think we wrestled more matches back then too. I think these guys' match, we wrestled Mondays or Tuesday duels, Thursday duels, and Saturday duels, and I just think those beginning of the week duels are kind of going by the wayside. But it just would be cool if we could have a couple more, which obviously we didn't have the merger with Alcester back then either, so they have to split a duel over there too. But hopefully, like you said, hopefully he can go out and do something special for us tonight.
Yeah, it was always fun to kind of wrestle in front of your home crowd, and it's kind of a lost art now. There's a lot of travel that happens. You're moving around from up to Salem. There's getting in tournaments and Brookings, and distances start to become part of the equation to get all these matches in. So fun to get a match here in Beersford tonight, and Justin, you and I get to sit up here and enjoy it and share it with everybody else. Isaac, this is an interesting career here too. Isaac's one that's probably, if you're going to look for lots of flash and flare with technique, it's probably not him. He's kind of, he wins by will and determination in a lot of these matches. And you can see here where fighting off a double or a single leg, and, a crossface here would really be kind of the ticket. And he's got lots of power.
He gets himself in some weird, goofy situations sometimes where he just doesn't quite have the finesse to get it out. I think he's more of a grinder, more of a not quite so flashy, But the best thing about Isaac, too, he's a great kid. He's not a kid that's got all the accolades in the world, but it doesn't matter. He's stuck it out. He's done it his whole career, and it's pretty special to see someone like that could have given up at any point, when they didn't have a ton of success early on, grit it out and finish his career.
Yeah, and it's kind of fun this year, too, and even on the gridiron. As the season kind of wore on, he ended up playing some linebacker and really did kind of a nice job in that. So, he's had an interesting wrestling career. Like I said, isn't going to be flashy and have all the accolades that go along with it. But he's a kid that really sticks in it, and you need kids like that in the wrestling room to kind of, demonstrate by example, to just be a grinder and work hard and hit all the workouts and stuff. So hopefully he can find a way to score some points here.
Yeah, on top, I just liked him to see there. He finally got a good breakdown, but he got in kind of a hurry when he ran that chicken wing the first time, and Boyle was able to kind of circle out and get back to his feet. Obviously, Isaac's kind of been getting outdone on his feet so far tonight, so I think it's going to be really important for him to really take advantage of being on top here in the second period.
Yep, so right now he's got him down on his belly, and it's a good time to really go for that turn. Boyle's doing a good job of kind of hanging in there and not letting them just kind of bulldoze him over to his back. So, here right now it looks like a half would be open. There's some opportunities there that you don't want to miss. Even if you don't hit the half and end up being in a turn, at least you're in a position where you're keeping them on their stomach. But at some point here, what do you think, Justin? If you're in the second period, if you go a little while long here, you're not able to make a turn. Do you cut them loose and try to go for points, or do you just kind of try to ride them out for the rest of the period?
I'm just not really sure what I would do if I was in Brandon's coaching position over there right now, because we haven't done a lot. We haven't had a ton of success on our feet so far this match. I think Isaac's right now, again, just kind of gets too far out to the side when he has that chicken ring. But I just think so far his best attributes that I have seen have either be on bottom and or being on top. So I would think that if he could roll a little more weight back into Boyle here, I think we were in the better position there. Just kind of, sat there a little too long, and, high hips win in this situation here. And unfortunately, Boyle's got the better of that end right now.
Yeah, I think Isaac had to let go there of the leg that he picked up there to try to kind of salvage, not giving up some points. But now he's getting worked into a potential cradle. Time is going to run out. We'll see if he can.
Be really important to not try to get turned here right at the end.
Yeah, it's going to give up some points that you really can't give up as you're going into that third period. So we talked about this earlier, Justin. Now it's the Hail Mary time. I'm going to guess.
Yeah, I mean, at this point I'd probably go neutral, but his coaches know him best and know where his strong suits are. So you got to put the trust in them in the process, and hopefully he can get it done now. But
yeah, so this is a good time. We talked about this earlier. He kind of got out of position there when he had the arm out to the side. It looks like there's a half open on the other side, and this is where he's got to kind of use his strength, get him broke down, go back to what he was doing. But Boyle's just doing a heck of a job, moving a lot down in the down position, making this tough, and just continues to get back to his base.
Yeah, I would say if we don't get a turn here within the next 30 seconds, I'd probably be, trying to get him to go out front and try something out of a front headlock, a position we haven't been in yet, and try to make Boyle uncomfortable. I think, Boyle's pretty comfortable where he's been so far. We haven't really put him in danger yet. So I just like this. I think now is home run time, so now Isaac's got to go try to find something here.
Yep, I wouldn't even be thinking about any type of shot at this point. I think it's all just a matter of working, ties, try to get deep into a position where you can throw. And unfortunately, he's going to get taken down. I'm kind of surprised that Boyle actually went that far to take a shot, but maybe he recognized, maybe he hurt from the side, just need a takedown to get the tech, and he pulled off a nice double leg there. So unfortunately, for the Rams fans there. Isaac wasn't able to get a victory there on senior night, but he'll obviously have another chance here in a match coming up. So moving on to the 190 weight class, we do have a rest. Okay, I was going to say, I think that we're just going to have a forfeit there at the 190 class. I don't think Simmonsma is going to have a match at 215, so it'll be another forfeit, and then we're going to have a heavyweight match, and that will, we've already seen Vasquez. We've seen what Dan can do on the mat tonight with a nice quick pin in the first period. Going to be taking on Connor Newmeyer. And, this is another interesting, career and wrestler, too, where there's been times where Connor will go out, put himself in a great position to win a match, and then, can miss those opportunities. And so,
yeah, I would say Beersford's in one of the, the Alcester Beersford Hudson team here. They're kind of in a younger rebuild, I would say. I mean, for a lot of years, like when I was coming through and my younger brother came through and Nick Casperson, like we were a powerhouse for a long time, which builds a heck of a culture up for a while. Now I just think we're in kind of one of those stages where they just got to kind of find their culture and with their chemistry and kind of go from there. Dan really likes to wrestle from those double unders there. He did the same thing that he did in the last two and got to his double unders and ended up in almost the exact same situation here.
When you can horse a kid around, a lot of times it just doesn't matter. You're just going to go into the position that you can throw a kid, and then you just do it. And we talked earlier about the wrestling room and having, wrestling partners that are near your weight really allow you to grow. And I'm going to say Connor's one of those victims of that, where last year you had some larger kids in there. Tweet didn't come back out this year, but everybody was a little bit lighter. And so you don't have that 250-pound kid that can kind of come in and match your weight, maybe even be a little stronger than you and force you to kind of have to wrestle. And so Connor kind of sits in that wrestling room, and you have to wrestle 40-year-old men that don't have the conditioning and the power and the quickness that some of these other wrestlers do. So moving into those smaller weight classes, we got Liam Moomey from Beersford, and he's going to be taking on William.
I think this is
Seeley. Sorry,
Seeley.
Yep, you're right. Hayden Seeley is wrestling tonight. So we got a freshman wrestling an 8th grader. We've seen some things out of Moomey this season that have been good. They went out to the Rapid City. I think he placed in the JV tournament out there. And then the last couple of weeks that I've watched him, there's some times that some kids, took it to him a little bit. So this should be a good test tonight, wrestling somebody in a similar age group. Sometimes you'll end up in those quads or those tries where you got a couple juniors and seniors in there that are ranked. And, Moomey's not quite there yet as an 8th grader, but still competitive. So this could be an interesting match.
Yeah, he's kind of got himself in it. I'd like to see him try to hit it, Kelly dump or something, or just clear out of it, because this is a situation that typically does not favor us in that situation, as we just saw him get taken down there. I think that's one of them situations where you kind of got to try to back out and or get some hand control to get out of that situation.
I'm with you. The longer that you're in that, where you've got your chin kind of locked up and you got an arm in there, the longer that you're in that position, the less favorable you're in. He's setting you up to throw you one direction or the other, and you may not know it yet, but and once you start reaching for a leg, you're a little distracted. Like you said, sometimes you just got to bail on those positions and just say, hey, I'm not going to give up the points and just want to get started over. Easier said than done, but sometimes you just got to force the action and away from your opponent and just say, I'm not going to continue down the path that I'm on.
And I think that's 100% something that just comes with age and being in that situation more and more. When you're young like this, you're coming off wrestling and youth wrestling, where you get away with more of those bad habits like we talked about earlier, Jeff. You're able to wrestle through a lot more of those situations and not get in trouble. I always tell my kids, I hate when a bad thing works out. I hate when they do something bad and reach back and grab the head and pin somebody, and they don't understand that, they think I did such a great job, but you're just creating so many bad habits that are not going to work at this level. And it's hard to get through to these younger kids. You're trying to constantly develop them, turn them into young men and, better athletes, but it's hard sometimes when they get away with too many bad habits.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You just seen it there at the end of that period. Moomey's taking a shot that's just not close enough to the opponent to really make it effective. And like you said, when you've had some success when you're younger and you got away with some of that stuff, you start to kind of depend on it. And when you're wrestling somebody that's a little more talented, maybe a little stronger than you, now that technique really, really comes into play. And, this is, like we said, we've got a young team here. Mumi's going to learn some things from this match too, and obviously it's not over yet. But there's a good period there where there's some lessons to definitely be learned.
Yeah, absolutely. It's still a 3-1 match, and we're not out of this match by any means. We're just really, I think when you're young too, you try to do too much sometimes. Like right now, I think he's, wanting to grab a leg and wanting to do a lot of different things. So I think just the basic stand-up or a basic switch would go a long ways. But that's just something that you just learn. You only get better and better at as you get more experience under your belt.
Yeah, working really hard for 1 point, it doesn't always make sense to the guy, but ultimately it's like just work really hard to try to get your 1, and don't worry about a reversal. Don't worry about trying to gain control. Just try to get the escape. And you and I both know, and you get someone that's really good on top, that's not an easy thing to do. And, but if you just consistently work at it, you'll continually get better at it as well. But yeah, when you start getting a little sloppy with the technique, reaching back, that's when all of a sudden pins start to mount up against you as well, because you put yourself in harm's way.
Well, and it's just exhausting down there, Jeff. I mean, the amount of energy that we're burning up as a bottom man right now is it's incredible. That the top man burns up next to no energy trying to ride us out. Where that's why you sometimes just got to get through their head. Like sometimes getting an escape, if nothing else, you're just preserving so much energy, because it's exhausting to try to do what Liam is doing right now, where it's just unrelenting pressure on top. It's a lot of work down there on the bottom.
Yeah, you got to hand it to Seeley here. He's applying a lot of pressure. He's keeping him at bay, not really allowing. Finally allows him to get to his feet, but of course time runs out, so there really isn't anything there. So I'm going to guess I'm going to guess he's going to take the down position, and so it's, this is one where I suppose you try ride him out here a little bit to see if you can turn him. He hadn't had success in it before, but at some point here, if you can't get it done, you're going to have to cut him loose, go down 1-4, and then hope for that takedown to try tie that match up before the end of the period. So we'll see what kind of pressure Mumi can apply on Seeley here for this next probably 30 seconds or so before he starts having to make some decisions.
Too, and as you get into college wrestling too, when you start getting ride-out points too, that changes a lot of the strategy in this too. Right now, obviously that doesn't play a factor at all at the high school level, but if it did in college, you would have to try to erase that before you cut them and try to go get a takedown. But obviously in this situation, I don't know that I'd ride him out for a ton of time. I'm not over familiar with how good Liam is on top, but I would say as Seeley's only goal is to not get turned on the bottom. It's going to be a battle to try to get some points here. Yeah,
Seeley seems comfortable right now just staying where he's at. I think he's got a good enough defense to not get turned. So at some point here, we're down to a minute. This is probably going to be decision time here in the next 15 seconds on whether you're going to cut him loose.
Kind of surprised there hasn't been a stall warning. Seeley hasn't pushed a lot of action on the bottom end. Right. A lot of wrestling with his head on the mat.
Well, Mumi's going to let him off the hook either way at this point. And there's
got to break contact there, though. It's just kind of another inexperienced thing, and then now Mooney's just going to hold on. But just another, there you go. Now we burned up an extra 10 seconds that we really wish we could have back at this point.
Correct.
And that's just mad awareness that just comes with time and age and being in that. That's a really nice shot there.
Really nice shot, but can he finish?
I would have liked to have seen him stay on that outside single, going to a double. This takes a lot of energy here.
Yeah, you're right. That's a lot of times when you get on that outside leg, it's all where your head's going to be positioned, and he's getting back into position, but now that Seeley's got a really nice ankle pick. Interesting that Seeley just cut him loose there. He had the points, and he could have
to go around him.
Could have finished the match off the way that it looked. So I'm sure the coaches will talk with Seeley there and say, dude, when you get your chance to get 3 points and finish the match, take those points, and then you can cut him loose, but don't do it too soon. Oh,
just
boy.
Not quite enough time.
Got himself in a good position, but just ran out of time there. You mentioned it a little while ago. He got a nice deep shot. But earlier when he kind of cut him loose and then got right back into the action again, probably should have let Seeley get back to his feet. Those extra 10 seconds would have been important. So Seeley with the win. We got Owen Sirk coming out for the Rams. Owen is one of the high-ranked third. He's ranked third in 106. Going to be wrestling 113 tonight. and wrestling O'Connor. So this should be a good match.
Yeah, O'Connor's ranked 5th. I see right behind
Yep.
him.
So both these guys ranked at the 106. Wrestling 113 tonight. Both guys are going to be probably feeling each other out here for the first, 30 seconds or so, kind of finding like getting some range, maybe a little head slapping, working the neck. Connor's going to have an advantage here as far as his length.
It was a really nice finish to transition off there. That was very, very well done. I just looked at that too. I didn't realize O'Connor's only an 8th grader. Pretty impressive to see that kind of a transition out of a young kid like that.
Yeah, super. Look, you can just see the long arms and legs, and it was very smooth on his takedown there. Pretty special to see an 8th grader, with that kind of technique. But Owen's a scrapper, so gave up a takedown, but Owen's pretty good on his feet. So we'll just see where this thing kind of plays out. But it should be a great battle.
Yeah, Owen's a great hand fighter. He puts a lot of pressure on guys' heads, as we just saw that snap there. He just does a very good job of controlling that situation. I think he just got caught a little bit on his heels there in that first takedown.
And there's times you can maybe go out and maybe underestimate your opponent a little bit. You don't realize that he's working it, but O'Connor with a real deep shot there, and
beautiful
nice counter
by Owen.
And that's what Owen can do. You miss a shot and you try to relax for a second thinking he's back and he's just going to play defense. He allows you to come forward a little bit more, drops his hips, and he will get you off your feet in a hurry. And so that was kind of a textbook Owen Sirk kind of takedown where he'll get in deep, get you off your feet, and then try to pick up some back points on you as well. So interesting match so far. This should be a good one to see how this plays out. We'll see if O'Connor can ride Sirk for this period.
Which Owen got away pretty fast last time. Obviously, we're starting in a lot different situation this time. Owen to his feet early, and it looks like O'Connor's going to go ahead and just let him go.
I don't think O'Connor was going to even try at this point. I think he feels pretty good on his feet anyway and goes, hey, I got a better chance at scoring 3 here if we're both on our feet versus trying to ride someone out that I'm probably not going to pin anyway.
Yeah, a lot of different strategic, positions come into a match like this, where you're not probably going to catch a guy like Owen on his back. You're going to have to kind of grit this one out, and so you want to wrestle where you wrestle best. And obviously O'Connor feels that he did a great job so far on his feet, so why not go back there?
And I'll be curious to see if O'Connor's willing to take another shot again based off of what just happened. Obviously, Sirk kind of set him up to say, you take the shot, I'll take one back. But Owen's going to go on the offensive here right away. This is where the length of O'Connor really helps.
Owen got it.
Sirk was able to work his way through it, but having that longer length and those longer arms allows you to kind of get back behind your opponent and grab an ankle. It kind of, prevents guys from finishing moves. But Sirk is, he's a veteran. He's been around doing this for quite a long time, and so the experience is definitely on his side. O'Connor's really trying to keep him from getting his leg in.
Yeah, 100%. The experience is going to come into a factor here. I mean, Owen's been in tight matches like this a lot. He just knows how to win in these situations, and he's just going to just do what he does best now. And he's really good on top. Does a great job of controlling guys' wrists and tying them up. And even if you're not going to go score on it, you're giving that guy on the bottom a lot to think about. So it's hard to hit a stand-up when you're worried about, is he going to roll my wrist and hit a chicken wing, or is he going to put me in a half Nelson? You give the guy a lot to think about, and it's a lot harder for them to work up on the bottom.
Yeah, so he's like you said, really good on top. He applies the ton of pressure, and a lot of times when he's on top, it's difficult to get the escape. And he does like this leg ride, and he can get some back points off of this.
Just going to run out of time.
All right, we're going to go back to our feet. Sirk is up 8-3.
After that first takedown, it's kind of all about Owen after that. He's done a great job of, again, like I said, he does so well with getting guys off balance like that with his snaps and his fakes, and he's really fun to watch.
Yeah, I think after that he kind of settled in. I think that first takedown surprised him a little bit, but he seems like he's in total control now. Once again, O'Connor, back with his hips down, kind of in this position that he was in before. Sirk was able to kind of just work his way through it, did it again. and the amount of pressure that he's been able to put on top, I could probably see him riding him out the rest of the time or picking up some additional back points. And just when I say that, he gives him an escape. So what do I know, right?
Well, Owens hit the same shot the last 2 shots, just that outside single where he just got O'Connor reaching and just did a great job. But O'Connor's still going after him, and you're gonna have to wrestle this the whole last minute here. Oh,
this is pretty strong. Oh, yeah. Don't underestimate your opponent here. That was a pretty good, powerful move for an 8th grader, especially. Dangerous position there on the edge of the mat.
Yeah, I think Owen just got a little complacent there. We're really close to the edge, and I think he just kind of thought that they were maybe just going to go out of bounds, and it worked out for him. But that's one of those situations where you gotta wrestle until you hear the whistle. Really impressed with O'Connor. I mean, he's down 11-4 right now. Going to need some things good to happen here to finish this match out. It's right there. There's some points. Of course, he's going to cut him loose, try to get himself in a position now where he can get a takedown. If he can get a takedown and some back points. There's another shot from Owen. He's really made his money on that outside shot there. Kind of got, I don't really know why he switched off there with a double there. I would have liked to seen him stay 2-on-1 like he has the last 2 times he finished, especially since O'Connor's got the length here. O'Connor's not going to have enough time to really make anything happen here, but it was a good match both ways here. Yeah, Owen he's going to be more than comfortable staying in that position, and obviously they called stalemate here with 9 seconds left, but totally comfortable in that position to say, okay, neither one of us are going to score. Going to need a Hail Mary here from O'Connor to do it, but really impressed with O'Connor. Lots of potential with this kid. He's going to be around a long time, and he will definitely be a force to be reckoned with. Wrestling one of the top kids in the state. He is ranked 5th in the state himself. That kid's got no reason to hang his head tonight for sure. All right, moving on. We got Bennett Farley from Beersford. Bennett is an honorable mention ranking in the state, and he should be wrestling, I think, Easton Scheit. I just noticed, Jeff, as wrestlers get done and get their hand raised, it was pretty common practice when I was in high school to go shake the opposing coach's hand after your match. Is that something that seems to have kind of gone by the wayside now? Yeah, and I don't know why tonight, I've noticed the same thing. You go to the tournaments, you still kind of see it quite a bit, and then when you get into these tries and don't see it as often, and I don't know why that tradition, it is obviously a physical sport and an emotional sport in a lot of cases, but it's still, the gentlemanly thing to do, and you got to have a little bit of a warrior spirit when you go into this deal, but you come over and you still shake hands with the other opposing coach, and I don't know, maybe one of those things. It's just a lost art and science with wrestling, and maybe just a representation of our culture in general. But kind of unfortunate we didn't get to see that tonight. Yeah, I make all my youth kids do it after every match. I think it's important to compose yourself, after the match and go have to talk to the other coach and at least congratulate him and his, and his wrestlers. So I think it's something that I think is a good thing, whether there might be underlying factors as far as, with a lot of illness going around and stuff too, that maybe they don't want more contact than necessary tonight. That could also play a huge factor. So, but if not, it would be a good thing. I'd like to see him get back to doing if there's not underlying reasons for that. Yeah, maybe a coach says, I don't need any more handshakes than I've already got, but at least a fist bump or whatever I think is a good, respectful thing. Got kind of a wild match going on so far. You can't really tell who's in control for a good portion of this, but Bennett and Easton are kind of going at it here, and right now it looks like either one of them could score at any minute, but 30 seconds left in the match. Scheitz looks like he's trying to get a turn here with the leg in. A lot of length on these kids too. It's kind of incredible that we've seen through these first few lighter weights that these kids are long wrestling these weights here. Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing as I'm watching this. I'm like going to try turning. I'm like, both these kids are, they've got those long arms and long legs, and there's a lot of leverage that comes with length. A lot of explosiveness and power obviously comes with the shorter, compact-built wrestlers, but a lot of times with that length, it allows you to grab ankles and get yourselves in positions that you're not always in. So, one body's type versus the other isn't always beneficial, but definitely these two look like they're longer and lankier.
So right now we got Farley's down 2-5. I'm going to guess we got probably a nosebleed. Kind of been I would say, consistent issue for Farley all season. And I don't know, Justin, if you can remember that. It seems like once you get a bloody nose, it kind of hangs with you the rest of the season.
100%. It was the same way for me in college. If I busted it open once at practice, it'd bleed all year long. We had talked about cauterizing it a lot of different times, but, there's a lot of matches where you need a little blood time, little breather break. So I don't know if I'd willingly go give that up if I didn't have to, if they don't make you do it, because there's a lot of times that kind of save your butt when you're running out of gas in some of those tight matches.
So you're kind of hoping for that strong cross face when you're down there to see if you can get a breather.
Almost leaning into it sometimes, see if you can get them to go a little harder with it next time.
Rubbing your face in the mat.
It's fun to see. I've known Bennett a long time. Obviously, Butch was my AAU coach, and it's cool to see Butch being able to coach Bennett. And it makes me think a lot about. I have a 3-month-old at home. My wife wasn't able to make the trip tonight because he's sick, but I'll be really curious to see how I adapt and can do that going forward someday. Because I feel like that's a hard, coaching your own kid. I feel like it's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah, Butch Farley, Tim Farley, what commonly known as Butch, is one of the assistant coaches on Beersford, and this is his son. And Tim had a nice career here in Beersford in the 80s, and now here we are, with his the last one at home. And unfortunately, he had 2 girls before, and neither one of them were wrestlers. So this has been his one and only. And I agree with you. Just watching your son wrestle is one thing, but going in and coaching too, and it's hard. You want them to have success and all those types of things, but you also got to realize that. Sometimes you're still dad, and the eye rolls will come along with everything that you say, regardless of whether it's right or wrong. Bennett's doing a nice job here, applying a lot of pressure up on top, not really allowing, Scheit. Someone get lost in my name sometimes, but he's really not allowing Scheit to get up to a base here very often. Just keeps the pressure on him and controlling an arm. Got 26 seconds left. If he can keep Scheit on the bottom, puts himself in a good position with a 1-point lead. Scheit looks like he's working a reversal here. This is going to...
Short time, you're like, Bennett needed to just do a good job of holding on to something and just not allow that to happen there.
So let's round out here in the second period.
And I think it depends situation to situation. I think some dads are obviously able to coach their kids through their whole career, and then like Doug Schwab, he's the head coach for UNI down there. They're top 5 team in the country right now, and his kids are both ranked number 1 and 2, and I think they're both ranked number 1 in the state of Iowa right now as high schoolers, and he doesn't coach his kids at all, and he's a phenomenal college coach. I just think it kind of depends on you and and your kids. I think that's just something you have to kind of learn and establish what you're good at.
Well, think back in the 80s of the Smoky Woolmans, three.
Yeah.
3 sons going through that, coaching them at home, coaching them in practice, and all of that. It's so it certainly can be done, but I'm sure it's heart-wrenching to be in the wrestling room. Oh!
That was a great job by Bennett there to keep his hip pressure.
Yep.
I think it's important to slow down in this situation and remember we need to go get our points first. I know the fall is really cool in front of the home crowd, but this is a really important situation in a tight match like this where we need to remember points are important too.
Yeah, when the points are there, you got to take them. At this point, I agree with you. Let's just clear the leg, get your 2, get back on top. He's shown that he can really ride Scheit at this point, but I don't think he's going to be satisfied unless he can try to get a turn out of this. But I would probably just break it.
I think he did get the award of the takedown. The ref must have felt like he was in enough control there.
Well, looks like he's going to get his turn.
He's got that leg locked in there. It's a real awkward position as far as where Scheit's shoulder lands right now.
Right, really no position there to really finish it off.
No, I think Bennett would really have to reset here, which I don't know that he's going to do, but I think that would be the only way he's going to probably get the pin here is if we reset and get back out to the side.
And you really don't want to get yourself in such a weird, awkward position that Scheit can kind of get some points here, but I think Scheit's okay with getting back to his base at this point and trying to restart. But Bennett's really keeping the pressure on him. He's up 13-5.
Watching Bennett the last couple years, that's somewhere he's really gotten. So you got to be careful here in a situation like this. Bennett did a great job of just burying his hips to the mat there. Bennett's just his defense has gotten so much better over the last couple seasons. He's always been really tough on top with his length, but he's gotten so much better with his hip pressure and all that. So it's fun to see him go out and control a match like this.
And a little more physical wrestler than he was too. Cross faces are coming around real hard. There we just see Scheidt reach back to try to get the head. That's a big no-no in most of the world. But when you're down 13 to 5 or whatever the score was, you got to go for those types of things because you just don't know what can happen. All right, I don't know if we've got a match coming here. Looks like Sebastian is going to end up with a forfeit, Sebastian Castillo. So no match for him at 126. We're going to move on to 132. Or no, we're going to be, let's see, we're moving some. Okay.
Yeah, Seely's taking it.
Yep, so we're going to have, Seely's going to take the forfeit at 132. Dexton's going to move up into 138 to go wrestle Lee, who we watched in the first. Yep, so Lee's going to come on. We saw a great performance from him the match before. Really impressive. So Dexton is what do you say, Dexton? He's ranked 5th in the state. It's fun to watch. There's usually a lot of action. He's a combination of speed. He's a combination of power. He does have technique. It's one of those things. This type of match could get pretty explosive because it looks like Lee is a similar type of a wrestler where there's a lot of power and flash here. But Dexton is he's really come on. He's been good in the last couple of years, but this year he's really started to utilize his power and his strength to kind of start to horse some guys and allow you to get away with some things that maybe you shouldn't be able to. But it does make it exciting to watch a lot of his matches too.
Yeah, the only critique I could even give Dexton last year was watching him was just needing to slow down some situations sometimes. Yep. He gets a little bit ahead of himself sometimes and tries to do things just a little too fast, and he's done that a lot better job of that this year. Oh. Very explosive right off the whistle, but he's just got to, especially right now, he's just got to do a better job of getting his head high here. I think that's a tough shot to finish that low-level single right off the whistle like that against guys that are lanky like this.
Yeah.
They can tie you up. But that would be the only thing I would have said to him, last year was just we got to slow down our pace a little bit. Because like you said, he can score from anywhere. He's incredible to watch. You're never safe when you're wrestling Dexton because he can hit anything at any point. So he's a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, and you see some matches too where he's maybe he's a little outgunned. He's got an opponent that's scoring on him, and he gets down by 5 or 6 points, and that's when he can get really dangerous because he is capable of those big point moves where
just try to swaddle there.
He'll get in tight. He can get you off your feet, from the standing position and get you to your back. And so he's one of those guys. He's pretty dangerous. But Lee right now has got him pretty locked up. Folks, we are about to see one heck of an upset here if he gets a pin. But here's where Dexton's strength comes into play, where he takes a cradle and now turns it into potential points. But he is going to give up the back points, and this is going to be a and here,
roll there if he can sit back.
He gets his hips out. See, this is where you just can't see it coming.
He's so unorthodox, I guess, is the term I would probably use, because he really good at fighting through certain situations.
And most kids in that situation, okay, I'm gonna finish this period off. I'm gonna be up, 7-0, and most kids kind of relax. And
yeah, absolutely.
It looks like you're totally in control, and all of a sudden he's just, next thing you know, he's on top. Or you're in the middle of a turn and you have a deep cradle, and the next thing you know, you're like, oh my gosh, he might actually put me on my back. You just don't know where it's coming from.
Well, there was 3 different situations where Dexton tried that, that splato, and then when he almost got that headlock. I mean, those are both situations where Lee probably felt completely comfortable in that situation, and next thing you know, he was like, oh goodness, I gotta move, or I'm gonna get turned here. So that's just the really exciting part about wrestling too, is it can all change so fast.
And right now, Lee's deep in with his legs. He's really holding Dexton at bay. Done a great job on his feet, and now doing a great job here. But
getting pretty high out front there.
This is where probably being a younger wrestler didn't quite understand the experience, but it seems like he's matching him. Lee's got a lot of strength, like you said, a little longer wrestler, so he's able to do some things here that and probably catching Dexton a little off guard tonight.
Now we just got to see Dexton go to work here now. He's obviously shown that he can get away on the bottom. as he's done that twice now. It really stinks to give up that 4 points on that cradle early on. But, these are good matches too, though, to have to dig down from when you're down big like this. It teaches you to kind of grit wins out and not just be able to coast. You got to keep wrestling the whole time.
And he really likes he likes to do a tight waist tilt. It's kind of been his go-to turn. And so you get a longer kid like this. It doesn't look like he's getting super tight waist on him. He's trying to work some other things here, but
got it. He just doesn't quite have the pressure he needs.
See, it's like it's one of those moves where you can get it. So this is where the strength starts to come into play, where he'll try some of these moves that are just like you just don't see kids doing that at a high school level very often.
No. I'd like to see him switch off to something now. I mean, we got 30 seconds left. That's obviously not worked for us twice now. I think this is where you kind of go try to get something quick, easy here right at the end of the period.
Yeah,
I was going to suggest a monkey tail, which looks like what he's trying to go for now.
Yeah, a lot of times you don't need the spectacular turn. You just need the turn. And right here is where he can get one. If he can just get through this half, lift the hips, he's going to run out of time. So Dexton Miller down by 3 points. It's going to be Lee's choice.
See where Lee goes here. Going to go neutral. That's probably where I would go to.
I think I would too. So, he's had some success on his feet. This is where, once again.
But that works in the best favor of Dexton too.
Yeah.
If Lee chooses down and we give up an escape, that match is not where we want him. Right where 3 points is, right where we want him right here. We'd just like to see a quick finish from him. He's got in on 2 deep shots and then just got stuck. So I'd like to see him find something outside or maybe a double leg or, something that he can finish quick with. Lee's just a little too long, I think, to try to get buried in on something like this lowest single like we were stuck in last time.
Yeah, it's coming in a little, it's a little longer shot there than maybe what you'd want if you're in there tight and you get in on this. But this is another one of those weird positions now where it's like probably going to end up in a stalemate. Lee's wrapping his other leg around there to make sure that.
And this is one of those situations that doesn't benefit us. Over time's our biggest enemy right now, and so we need to. He's doing a good job of trying to work, but I agree with you. I think this is probably going to end up in a stalemate one way or another.
And Lee's doing a great job staying calm. He's probably, like you said, the higher hips is going to win this deal, and right now his hips are higher. So Dexton's probably fortunate right there that to be a stalemate, but Lee looks totally comfortable when he was up there. He wasn't panicking and like, oh my gosh, I'm only up 3 points to get up a takedown. He seems like he's just going to stay in the match, not get emotional.
Got to just keep moving there. See, this is where I'd like to see him do something like maybe a head in the hole, go behind here. Dexton being as strong as he is 100% in way better shape than Lee at this point.
And this is where these opportunities come where he typically will try to,
he's got the leg hooked.
They, typically try to turn that into a cradle or some sort of a turn, and right now those 3 points are going to be super crucial. He's got to break those hands.
The locks broke. That should be a takedown.
Got to keep working back. Going to run out of time.
That's an awful stalemate call.
Boy, I don't know if I could agree with that one. He was in a position to score.
Yeah, I don't know that I like that call at all. I think you let him wrestle through that situation there. I think that was a very scoreable situation.
Well, it's going to have to come up with something big here. We got 5 seconds left. 2 really, really impressive matches by Lee tonight. This is a big one. He ended up, I definitely would say, if you're looking at rankings, those types of things, it was an upset. I'm sure Dexton's going to be pretty upset with himself. There were some opportunities for him to do some things, but you got to tip your hat to Lee. That was 2 nice matches for him tonight.
Yeah, I would say the most frustrating part for that match for Dexton is we definitely pushed the pace, took most of the shots, just got caught in the 2 situations that we couldn't come back from.
So Zach Schuler's going to take the mat for O'Gorman, taking on Landry Sims of the Rams. Landry is newer to the sport, athletic kid, kind of plays more of the skilled positions in football. Still learning the sport, but you'll see tonight he's got some strength, he's got some speed, he does have an understanding of the sport and knows how to use some leverage. When he faces some kids that are more experienced, that experience will kind of come out. But when he gets into matches like this where he gets a quick takedown, You get to see some really nice signs of what's to come with Landry, and he's only a freshman. Schuler's also a freshman.
Really heavy snaps there. He just kind of, we snapped him, and it's like we just didn't know what to do with it after that sometimes. And then it's just a situation, just inexperience there.
Yeah, and there's one like with Landry, if he had more experience, there's a headlock that was just waiting for him to take advantage of there, and end up, instead of being a 7-point move, now he's on the bottom. So like I said, the inexperience, like I said, it'll come out and rear its ugly head at times where you're like, man, there was an opportunity there to throw him to his back, but it'll come with time.
Yeah, and I think there, that's like he almost knew the headlock was there and tried to grab it, but just, you got to understand that you don't have a lot. You only have a split second to just commit to that. We can't hang out. When you hang out in those situations, obviously we see what happens. So it's just an inexperienced move on his part, and hopefully he can watch the film on and learn from that.
And some of these things too is you start to learn when you're younger. You've got an opponent that got their leg in, they turn your hips. Obviously, they're in control of the hips, and you have a tendency to think that, I've got an open door here to kind of turn into them, and then the next thing you know, they got an arm coming right across your face and sticking you on your back. And those are the little things where you start to learn. You're like, just work on the hips to try not get turned versus turning into him and then really putting him in a better position than he would have been in anyways. But those are the small things that I think Landry's going to learn. There's a lot of potential here. I could see him turning into a really good wrestler because he's got a lot of the natural abilities. It's just not seeing it. Let's see there, like reaching back across his hips, putting himself in a really bad position. Just doesn't see it yet or feel it. And like you said earlier, sometimes when you're in that position, if you're wrestling someone that doesn't have much experience either, you get away with it. So you go back there. And then the kid that does recognize that reaching back or pulling your arm through and putting yourself in a bad position, and they capitalize on it quickly.
And again, he does a little bit of just trying to do a little too much. We got to just slow down and stick to the basics wins matches. I don't care what level you're at. From all the way from AAU all the way up to college. Just getting back to the basics lots of times will win a lot of matches for you.
So winner for the shot. Schuler did a nice defense there. He's got a crossface in.
In that situation, looked like Landry almost wanted to hit a fireman's, but then just wasn't quite in the right position for it. And that's just, again, just situational wrestling is key. Like you said earlier, where pressure's at and things like that. It's just all things that will come with time.
Sometimes the confidence, you start the shot, it almost becomes muscle memory, and then as you get into it, all of a sudden you go, hey, wait a second, am I really supposed to be here? And if you're going to take the shot, you got to go in with 100% confidence. But Schuler's going to finish this match off with a fall, with a cradle. So we're going to go into the next match.
Correct, 52 now?
Going into 44?
52.
Oh, I'm sorry, going into 50?
Yeah.
Okay, Holden Height. We've already seen Height earlier tonight, ranked wrestler here in the state. Kind of took it to his opponent. Cannon Clintz from Beersford. Here's another one of those that when you start talking about wrestlers that are interesting, I don't know what will happen here with Height and Cannon, but Cannon's another one of those wrestlers where you just kind of unpredictable.
Very strong.
Very strong.
Very comfortable upper body.
Okay with being in those weird, awkward positions where he doesn't panic, and then it can kind of score points from weird positions too. But when he does get someone that's, real technical or much stronger, a lot of times they can work him over. And Height being a senior, Clint still is just a sophomore. And I feel like when I've watched Clint's, it feels like there's just so much potential there, and excited to see what happens over time. But just kind of one of those wrestlers gets a little wild at times. Love watching it just because it's entertaining, but still has some ways to go on some of the technicals. By the way, his mom is the girls coach on the team. And she's also the conditions coach as well.
Yeah, I got to coach Cannon last year out at Rapid City. After the season was over, he came and wrestled cadet freestyle out there. So that's kind of my first time I've ever gotten to really coach him. And I would say where some elements that he can improve on is, like there where Height was just tapping his head a lot, and I think it gets Cannon just distracted in those situations where I think typically Cannon would be the better wrestler in those situations, but he gets a little flustered at times, I think. And I think if he can get some of he's so close to really turning the corner and being a phenomenal wrestler for the Rams here. It'd be really fun to watch him unlock that as he gets older and older.
Yeah, as you go through here, we'll see Caden Shirk here after this match too, and you got freshmen and sophomores, and there's so much talent that's on this Rams team that's coming up, and it's going to be exciting to watch it because they've had so much varsity experience at such young ages. We've had multiple 8th grade state qualifiers last year with Miller and Shirk. Those two come to mind right away, and so lots of experience coming. So there's a lot of good things coming for the Rams wrestling program. And Cannon's one of them too. It's just kind of interesting to see how all the weights will play out because they're so young. You don't know where that growth really ends up, and when you're stacked up at those younger guys, you're like, how many of them are going to have to cut weight or go up weights? But it's a good problem to have. You got bang, 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 good wrestlers all in a row, and we talked about that earlier, the Penn States and some of these really good programs. You have 3 to 4 solid wrestlers, just one weight after another. They're all wrestling each other, and they're all making each other better. And right now we've got that kind of environment in the wrestling room in Beersford.
Yeah, if we could just fill some of them upper weights, there's a lot of promising signs for us. Just got a lot. We're really solid at these middle weights and lower weights. Hopefully we can get some bigger kids to maybe go out and try it at least, just to give the guys we do have partners in the room. They still, like you say, just wrestling around with some of the coaching staff sometimes isn't always the most beneficial thing for us.
Yeah, and we've got some youth in there in the room too. I think that will come out, and we'll have some of those heavier weights filled. Just looking at some of the ones we have at 155 that are freshmen, they could end up being those 175, 190s here in the next couple of years. So they should kind of grow into it. But we'll also see some really strong wrestling here in the smaller weight classes too. I'm looking around at some of the kids that have moved from youth wrestling into the junior high wrestling. There's some really strong kids in there with some technique. The Peterson kid comes to mind, and so there's a lot of good kids coming up.
Yeah, Caden's coming up next. I got to coach him last year, and he's kind of the same way too. Though we have a lot of this where immaturity comes into play, where we try to do too much too fast. We have a really hard time of slowing down matches. Where I think if some of these kids can figure that out, I think they're going to have a lot of success. It's just trying to figure out find what you're good at. You ain't got to do every move in the book that you know. Sometimes just doing a couple of them really well will go a long ways for you.
And Schuler's got him locked up pretty tight here. He's going to pick up back points at the very least if he doesn't get a pin here before the end of the period. He's getting himself in a better position here with 10 seconds left. We'll see it. Cannon's
a lot of fight down there.
Cannon's one of those kids that is hard to pin. There's a lot of rolling around, and he has kind of a unique ability to kind of stave off those pinning combinations. But he is down 14-0. Well, he's got one more point here, and this match will be over. So we'll see if he can get a quick escape.
I think Schuler went ahead and took top there. You don't want to, like we talked about earlier with the home runs, you don't want to put yourself in a position, especially against a kid wrestler like Cannon, who they've probably watched on film and or seen him a time or two before and know how dangerous he can be from those positions on their feet. So probably just a wise coaching decision to where it's obviously going to work out for him here.
Yep, he's going to get his back points or the pin. He could either finish this off or return him back to his stomach, and the match will be over at this point. So nice win for Schuler. And also completed a match there that got a shutout.
Yeah,
it's a tough thing to do at any level, and like we said, Cannon's he can score in bunches at times, so that was a nice win for Schuler. So we're going to move here. This will be the last match of this duel. Caden Shirk from the Rams. Let's see here.
Slayton Jones.
Okay, I was going to say, I think it was Slayton Jones. So we got another freshman. Caden's, it's been an interesting season. Last year, lots of success as an 8th grader. Was kind of just stacking up wins on top of each other and just seeing some really impressive stuff. Ended up qualifying for state. And then this year, he's ran into a few meat grinders. I mean, there's been some matches where you would think that he would be more competitive, and some kids have really kind of taken it to him. So this is all part of that deal when you go up into these weight classes where all of a sudden you go from a 140 or a 145 to a 157. It becomes a little bit different world. Kids are a little bit match your strength, and I think Caden was, as an 8th grader, able to kind of manhandle a lot of the kids that he did. You'd see him when he got on top. He was able to really control wrists, get kids' arms behind their backs, and get kids into pins. And it's a little harder when you get in that 157 class. The one thing about Caden, super hard-nosed kid, aggressive. He's one of those. He can really take it on the chin, and he likes to be super physical. It's kind of his nature. You can see it when he plays football. He's a physical player, physical tackler, and so that style kind of gets represented here on the wrestling match. So, but right now, he's got his hands full.
Yeah, Jones is very technical. I've known him for a long time too. Very, very technical kid. Really doesn't get in bad position. Does a really good job of wrestling where he's really good. And I think where Caden had to have his biggest learning curve too is like when I coached Caden in youth wrestling, he was so much taller, Jeff, than everybody else he wrestled.
Right.
He was wrestling these kids that were, shorter, more rounded kids, and he was tall and skinny, so he built a lot of bad habits just because he was able to manhandle everybody he wrestled constantly. And I think that's been a big curve for him to have to learn here going forward. He's going to hopefully catch Slayton here.
Well, he's not wrestling a slouch. Slayton Jones is ranked number 3rd in the state. I mean, this is one of the premier wrestlers in this weight class. So for the fact that, and this is where really good kids find the way out of that. In a position, total control of the match, all of a sudden looks like, oh my gosh, could end up on my back, and it doesn't really give much up there. He's going to, what's he going to do there?
Optional start.
Yeah, it's going to do an optional start there.
Which always intrigues me why kids choose to optional start instead of just going neutral.
Yeah, I don't know what that's kind of seemed like it's a weird option just to have, period. I know every once in a while kids would like to take that stop. Is there a rule now? Can you immediately go into action from there?
I'm not sure what the rules are on technicality wise on like how much, if you have to break contact or not. I know a lot of kids, if they're behind, will do that to try to go out front and hit a front headlock quick because you're in the obviously much better position. But more times than not, they just do what Slayton just did. So I guess I'm just not really sure why. Yeah. Personal preference, I suppose, or what you want to do. If you want to cut him hard, you give him a little bit, one more reminder that you're a very physical wrestler. That would probably be the biggest thing, a little more intimidation, I guess. But. Sure.
Well, and I think, like you said, to that point, if you're going to do the optional start, a lot of times it was a matter of, okay, I've got some leverage. I can really come in and drive hard on. If you're having a difficult time breaking somebody down, that might be where you want to start, where you can just come in and kind of crash in on top of them. But yeah, just to go ahead and just let somebody up, I don't really understand why you just wouldn't say both on their feet, unless you're worried about like a Dexton Miller where you're like, I can instantly come in and try hit you on an ankle pick. But right now I don't think that he had Slayton didn't have a whole lot to worry about with that at this point. He feels like he's in total control of this match and kind of knows where he's at. But good learning match, here for Shirk as well. Like I said, it certainly isn't night and day from last year, but Shirk is starting to wrestle kids that probably match more of his physicality. And so this will be another good learning year for the freshman. And we're talking about youth for Beersford. I mean, if you kind of look on this O'Gorman team, it's not like it's senior laden either. There's a lot of younger kids on this team that are super impressive. Here's one of them.
Yeah, I feel like there's just a lot of young teams out there right now, and like I said, I'm not sure where the drop-off is, Jeff, if it's like the 6th grade transition into middle school or if more kids are falling off before they become seniors. So like I said, it's tough for some of those kids. It's pretty rare for a kid that hasn't had a lot of success to come through and wrestle for 4 years just because it is such a physical sport. I mean, it's not like this is easy. Not everybody can just go wrestle. It's not a easy sport to pick up on either late in your career. So it's I'm just not really sure where we're getting the such young squads from.
Yeah, you're right. A lot of this, if you get started early, it becomes more of a natural type of feel, and it certainly helps you for longevity in the sport. Like I said, trying to pick it up late when you're definitely at a disadvantage when you've had a kid that's had 10, a lot of them will start at 4 or 5 years old. By the time you get to 14, 15 years old, a lot of these kids have been wrestling for 10 years. If you're just getting started in the sport, you have definitely gave them a head start. And Landry Sims would be, a good example of that, where he's got the physical skills for it, but just doesn't have all the technique. So nice gesture here. We talked about this earlier. Slayton Jones going over to the Beersford bench and shaking hands. Congratulations to him on a match. Congratulations to the O'Gorman Knights. They'll win this duel 45-25. We will take a break as we pause here until Beersford takes on the Warriors of Sioux Falls, Washington. So we'll be right back.
Fiesta Foods in Beersford is a family-owned grocery store that offers a convenient one-stop shop for everything you need when it comes to groceries. With their weekly ad and their website, you can also find the deals in every aisle. And don't forget about their butcher counter in the back that features the best cuts of meat in the area. Fresh bakery and fresh produce, Fiesta Foods has it all when you're looking to shop in the Beersford area. No matter the season, open 7 days a week. It's Fiesta Foods in Beersford.
Honesty. We try to be honest about everything, and if there's a problem, we try to fix it. We've kept the family name going for 75 years. I think that's something to be very proud of. I'm Mike Weeman from Weeman Land and Auction out of Marion, South Dakota. And my middle name is Earl. I'm named after my grandfather. And being an auctioneer isn't all about how fast you are or how good your chant is. It's how the people appreciate your name and accept your name. He told me that once. So that's a one that I hold pretty close. He'd be proud, I think.
Ag Service Partners is your trusted company for Pioneer seed, chemicals, and crop insurance. Pioneer Seeds has developed and tested products to meet your challenges in the field. Ag Service Partners also has you covered when the white rain comes or anything else you may need with crop insurance. Tested and tried chemicals right here in the area to provide the best yield for your field. Write down the number and contact Ag Service Partners for the best farming season year in and year out.
For over 80 years, Sioux Corporation has been designing and manufacturing industrial pressure washers, steam cleaners, water heaters, water chilling systems, and steam generators to serve the needs of their customers. Sioux Premium Equipment is designed and built with reliability, performance, durability, and user safety as its top priorities. Sioux is locally owned and operated in Beersford and a proud supporter of all things watchdog activities.
When it comes to advertising, reaching the right market while giving back to the school is just plain right. If you're looking for an effective method that reaches a large fan base at once, then here's your ticket with Live Ticket TV. With over 90 schools in the state of South Dakota, we can help you advertise locally with just your home team or reach the region. Plus, a portion of all sales go directly back to the school. Get a hold of Heath Nimke today and let's get started in building your brand with Live Ticket TV.
Out here, you learn that to keep growing, you have to keep changing. CHS and the farmers and ranchers we serve know all about change, because together we've changed agriculture. That's why we're the largest farmer-owned cooperative in the country. So farmers own the system they count on, with advantages at every step. From innovative tools that help crops grow, to grain processing expertise, to energy solutions, we create connections to empower agriculture. Learn more at chsinc.com.
Whether you're trying to be the next best amateur, or if you're like me and pretending you know anything about this game, then the Bridges at Beersford is the best 9-hole course in the area. I think I missed him. The Bridges has everything you're looking for in a course, including a casual atmosphere and also a challenge on the greens. And the Bridges has a banquet space available too for your gatherings, so if you aren't into golf, they can still accommodate your needs. Visit their website today and find out more. What? I get as many mulligans as I want.
When the world feels big, a small note can mean everything. Find mental health support at sdbehavioralhealth.gov.
This is what matters. This is beyond X's and O's. This is the difference mutual respect makes. This is what character looks like. This is what defines us in South Dakota. This is sportsmanship. School sports, it's not the outcome that matters most, but the way the games are played. This message presented by the South Dakota High School Activities Association and the South Dakota Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association.
Yeah. Another one. Yep. Man, this town's changed. Yeah. About damn time.
Beersford Telephone is your full-service local telephone company, providing telephone service, sales, high-speed fiber optic internet packages, and professional surveillance systems for both commercial and residential customers. Beersford Telephone also offers the only in-town gig-certified internet provider, which offers the highest speed services. Wanting to upgrade your existing service? Contact Beersford Telephone today and let them get started on your high-speed services in no time.
Starting the first bank in South Dakota was the easy part, earning the confidence of local farmers, helping families account for their dreams, and securing the future for countless businesses took us a little longer. We owe it to the hard workers, big dreamers, and forward thinkers out there. Thank you for making South Dakota a great place to call home.
For healthier crops and stronger yields, count on Nutrien Ag Solutions. By partnering with...
Welcome back to the Sioux Corporation Press Box. Sioux Corporation, the industry leader in manufacturing water heaters and chilling systems, steam generators, pressure washers, and steam cleaners. Welcome back to the Sioux Corporation Press Box. Sioux Corporation, the industry leader in manufacturing water heaters and chilling systems, steam generators, pressure washers, and steam cleaners. Welcome back to the Sioux Corporation Press Box. Sioux Corporation, the industry leader in manufacturing water heaters and chilling systems, steam generators, pressure washers, and steam cleaners.
All right, welcome back, wrestling fans. We're going to continue tonight's action with Beersford Elcester Hudson and Sioux Falls, Washington. We're going to start out tonight. We talked about this earlier with having some girls on both teams. So we're going to be moving into, and I'll apologize because some of these weight classes are going to be moved around. I'm not always going to know who they are. So we'll kind of wait. It looks like Lily Bowden from Beersford, Elcester Hudson, is warming up there at the coach or at the registration table. So we'll see who Sioux Falls, Washington brings to the mat. Okay, looks like we got somebody there. They're struggling to get their warm-ups off and get their Don't forget your glasses. We've got someone going out there with their eyeglasses. So, hey, when you get excited about going on wrestling, why not? So, looks like she's ready to go. All right, we've got Deanne Long from Sioux Falls, Washington, taking on Lily Bowden. You know, Lily's had a nice beginning to her career. She's a freshman. Last year, you know, it was kind of up and down. And this year you can totally see a change in her technicality side of it. She's becoming a lot more efficient. She's really good on her feet now. And she's able to finish a lot of matches with pins that, you know, we didn't see last year. And it could come with maybe some strength and those types of things. But you can there's just a whole different level of confidence with her this year. And so not knowing a whole lot about Deanne Long, but both of them are freshmen. And so we'll kind of let this play out. Looks like right now Long really put her in a position. That's one where you'd probably like to see Lily bail out of that hold versus trying to stay in there and maybe try to get a throw.
Yeah, Deanne looks like she's going to have a little bit of strength on Lily, too. She looks like she's a little broader in that aspect. I think Lily 100% probably should have backed out of that situation a little faster, but it's just like it's all experience. You know, it's hard to understand those situations sometimes, and if you got lucky once and it worked out, you want to stay in there as long as you can sometimes. But
Long's got a really nice position here on Bowden. There's a whole minute left here to try fight. We'll see if she's going to put herself in a really tight position here shortly. Right now, we'd like to see her lift her arm, get the head lifted up, and really put herself more in what you would call like a headlock. Looks like she's getting closer to that, but just doesn't quite understand how to finish this match. If she would really wrap this up tighter, she'd probably be able to get a fall on Bowden. But right now, I'd like to see maybe Lily try to turn back. There we go. Turn back into that. You probably get out of that position, get your head out. Oh, she's going to go back into it again.
Yeah,
now,
I was just going to say, if we roll back, we're going to be in worse position than we were in the first
Long now
place.
got that position that she wanted. You're right. So it was like either if you're going to roll into it, you got to get your head out. Otherwise, you just walked yourself into a deeper hold. So nice win for Long. Next up, I think we've got Peyton Rostad from Peyton Rostad versus Cheyenne Christie from Beersford Elcester Hudson. Got a 10th grader from Washington and a 8th grader from Beersford.
Like we talked about earlier, women's wrestling has gained a lot of ground over the last couple of years. But the difficult part about women's wrestling still is it's all still only one division at the national tournament at the college level. So whether you're, you know, USF's women's team is wrestle, they go wrestle the Iowa Hawkeyes, you know, and that's a tough transition when you're, you know, when you consider the different levels when you get to that, you know, expertise.
Yeah, when you've got a top-rated pro wrestling program recruiting you to come wrestle there versus someone like, hey, I really like the sport and I want to continue in it. It's a little different expertise level that starts there. You know, and you got some girls that go into these big-time programs with ambitions to go into the Olympics or furthering in their career. And, yeah, if you're just a casual, you know, I want to just kind of continue in the sport, you're probably going to be at a disadvantage with most of them. But you're also going to run into some situations where you probably have some others that are similar. You know, watching this match here, and a lot of the girls wrestling that I've seen over the last couple years is, but this is it's good. So just watching them develop the difference between two inexperienced wrestlers, a lot of grabbing at the head and the neck, and really kind of an unsure approach to like how to get a takedown, and everyone's kind of looking to just pull somebody down by their head or their neck or kind of hit that headlock. And the maturation of a lot of these wrestlers of getting beyond that and be able to do single leg takedowns and finish shots and turn people over in good fashion. And there's a nice turn right here. It looks like Christie's in a really bad position here. When both of your arms are locked in, it's usually a matter of time before that pin happens. So nice win there from Rosted. But hopefully tonight we'll get a chance to see Reese Olson from Beersford. There's one that the maturation process started early in her career, and mentioned her early. She's got 100, not 100 wins, 100 pins in her career, and she's one where you see a lot of technical wrestling that happens with her.
Yeah, I think the biggest switch I would like to see as far as high school wrestling goes is once you get to college, it's freestyle only for women's wrestling. So I think that would probably be a good thing to teach these girls at a younger age, like in high school, because that's not an easy style to go from folk style to freestyle as far as like how you wrestle and approach it.
So a few Washington girls here, I think, got some forfeits. We just had open weight classes there. And I don't know if anyone's going to come out here to wrestle
I don't think
Reese or
get a
not.
match.
So unfortunately, we won't get a chance to see that. She's going to be one of the top wrestlers in the state in the girls wrestling division, and unfortunately, won't get a chance to see that tonight because it's sure fun to watch. She's 6th ranked in the state, and I don't want to take anything away from the girls here from Washington. We got Olivia Colbreck, ranked 4th in the state. Success Darbelow ranked 8th in the state at 120. Serena Walker at 100, ranked or honorable mention. So lots of good things happen in the Washington Warriors wrestling room with the girls. Really nice to see, and I'm glad that they were able to bring some girls down here tonight. Do want to showcase one wrestler here from Beersford. It is senior night tonight, and so you'll see one of them walking out with the great T-shirt is Isaac Bowden. He is the lone senior. He's the son of Andrew and Ann Bowden. And during his time here at Beersford, he's participated in football, wrestling, track. He's in FFA and band. He's been wrestling here for 6 years. I think he's got 4 of those seasons. He's earned a letter. All of his teammates, they call him Business because of his serious attitude. And I know the staff really appreciates all the hard work and dedication he's put in. We talked about him earlier about being a real grinder. And next year we'll wish Isaac good luck as he heads off to Mitchell Tech. And he's hoping to become an electrician there. So just want to say thanks to Isaac for 6 good years of Rams wrestling, and he was a nice example of what it is to grind. So moving on to the boys action. We're going to start tonight off with Isaac. Xander Idem, who we saw earlier tonight. I think he came up with a win, if I remember correctly, and going to wrestle Isaac. So let's get this last duel started here tonight at the 175 weight class.
I just see Isaac get his hands on this guy, and he's really strong when he can get guys tied up and do what he's good at.
Yeah, being in space sometimes isn't the best thing for him, and like you saw right there, the guy got a really nice shot. And this is one where maybe I'm just going to sit back and probably play a little more defense and not try to press the action. After watching Idem in the last match, really quick. And so some of these times you're going to take a shot. He's just begging for you to take the shot because he wants to spin around on you. Right now, it looks like Idem feels really comfortable with on his feet, understands that he maybe has a slight advantage with the quickness. So Isaac's just got to keep his head here and not try to do anything too crazy. Keep changing levels like he's been doing.
Yeah, he did a good job there at tying.
So he's got to get back to his feet here, and Idem just did a great job of just keeping Isaac's head down, able to get around the backside of him, quick pick up another 3, probably try to work a pinning here. If you can't get anything going soon, he might just let him back up again.
Isaac had that nice tie there. He was kind of controlling the. I felt like he was controlling the tie there, and then just kind of forced a shot that I felt like he maybe had to have, or I'm not really sure what his thought process was there. But I think he just would wrestle a lot better if he can just tie guys up and slow them down. He's a very good at if he can wrestle his pace and style of wrestling for sure.
Well, we talked about this too. We started getting this 175 weight class. Sometimes, you never want to take away, single legs and double legs, regardless of the weight. When you can go out and hit them, you hit them. But sometimes you get these little heavier weights. There is a place sometimes for wrestling higher, getting into more tighter situations, try to get someone to lose their balance or force them to go forward or backward and maybe get a trip. With being stronger wrestlers like that, you are able to basically throw somebody to their back. And I don't know, if that's really being taught a whole lot in the wrestling rooms at really anywhere anymore. And maybe, Justin, you can allude to that. You were a college wrestler. I know that's probably looked down upon for once more you get into the college wrestling. But doggone it, if you can do it, there's nothing wrong with it either.
Absolutely, and that's something I haven't seen a lot of tonight. I haven't seen a lot of underhooks and jacking people up and controlling the upper body. We haven't seen outside of Vasquez from O'Gorman, who obviously lat dropped both, body locked both of his guys. We haven't seen a ton of upper body wrestling. I think that in certain situations, it's a good way for guys to slow the pace down, and I think that's where some of these kids would really excel. And I'm just not sure, if we're just not comfortable in those situations, or if we're trying to focus on more takedowns. But in my mind, an underhook would suit Isaac a lot better there in that situation than trying to kind of force that shot. And now we're going to spend all this energy on the bottom trying to suck a leg in. So I'm just not really sure why we haven't seen a ton of wrestle in there tonight. But it's could just be the style too, like we talked about. Every room has their style and what they coach and what they preach, and maybe that's just not what these schools are going for.
Right. And when we saw this match earlier with O'Gorman and Washington, had two highly ranked opponents out there with Knutson and Simmonsma, and both of those you could tell that they're pretty athletic and awfully strong, and they didn't really get into a whole lot of the ties either. They're both looking for shots on the legs. And those types of things. So I think that there's just been kind of a shift in wrestling where it becomes more focused. And if you look at the college, lots of guys grinding out. You see guys doing the splits, trying to keep away from you don't really see as much of that in the high school level, at least without blowing hamstrings. But the college guys now, it's normal. If someone hits a single on you and you just go into this basically the splits to keep one leg in front and one leg in back to prevent them getting another leg. And it just seems like all of that's kind of moved that direction for whatever reason. And
I think a lot of it has to do with, too, you see more scrambling, obviously, in college just because the level of wrestling is much higher. But a lot of it has, too. South Dakota wrestling is a long ways behind some of these other states, I would say. So as far as, the situations, but you look at, the really top guys throughout the state, and they're solid. But we fall off quick in the state of South Dakota. Our top guys are really, really good, but there's just not enough depth there to make some of these kids. Right. Some of these kids, Jeff, that are top kids in the state, they might not wrestle 6 minutes till they get to this, semifinals, finals of the state tournament. That just doesn't happen in a lot of these other states, and that's just the way it is, But I think that's probably, too, why we're seeing more, here we've seen some, underlock or underhook situation a little bit there, but.
Yeah, and I'm gonna guess Miles is probably still a little upset about the way the last match went, so he's gonna come out super aggressive, and he got a quick takedown on Connor and
quick chin drop attempt there.
Yeah, and Connor, that's one thing. He when he's on the bottom, he has a tendency to do some things like get on the sit up, sit out, and just kind of gets in a position where he's really unsure where to go from there, and a lot of times guys will try to snap him back, and he's learned over time to kind of defend that, but still it's a matter of this type of wrestling that you just saw from Miles and from Velasquez tonight. They weren't if you just look at their body style, they're not going to go down there and try to let some 300 or 285 pound guy fall on them. They're going to wrestle up top. And so when you don't have that in your wrestling room, it feels awkward when you got a guy that it feels natural. And, we talked about this with Connor not really having anybody else in the size. Cooper Joseph now just joined wrestling. But having somebody else the same size, And with leverage and balance and those types of things, it kind of it rises all tides, and you see other kids in them same weight classes. So unfortunately for Connor, he doesn't always get in those positions in the wrestling room, and you see it there where Miles was able to kind of get him down and eventually put him away with a fall. So we're going to move into the 113 weight class. We saw Owen Cirk here earlier tonight. Looked to get a little surprise by O'Connor, and then end up kind of putting on a clinic for the rest of the match until late, where O'Connor got a little bit closer. But we're going to see him come out tonight and take on Blake Bast, who earlier tonight kind of had a rough go of it. So we'll see what happens here. I'm going to guess Cirque's probably going to have some scoring opportunities here, and Blake's, as a freshman, probably still learning the sport a little bit, but he'll go out there, and Cirque will probably put some takedowns in, let him go, and I'd eventually assume that he'll probably win this match.
Yeah, and I try to tell my little guys too, is this is an important match for Blake in the fact that you're probably outgunned, and you have to still go out there though and try to. I mean, you still want to try to go find an opportunity to win for your team. So I think it's an important learning lesson and teaching lesson for, maybe you need to hold a different position. You don't wrestle as how you normally would, knowing where Owen's really good. So I always say there's just as much learning, if not more, from losing than there is winning. So I think this will be important for Blake to, not do silly things like there just fall down. I mean, we got to maintain good position and try to put Owen in a position where he has to work a little harder.
Yeah, and so he's racking up the points here quickly, and like you said, sometimes the confidence level will drop. You're looking at the opponent, and you're like, okay, this might be a long night for me, and I will say I can look back, a long time ago when I was doing this sport. If you know that you're outgunned and you're a little younger, you kind of tend to start to go through the motions, and you kind of saw that there with Blake with kind of a half shot. And like you said, that's growing experience, and it's just understanding. And once his confidence gets a couple wins under his belt, then he'll start to look at those shots a little differently and put a little more pressure on those high-ranked opponents. But hey, man, I always say one thing: if you go out and whether you get your hand raised or not, you went out on the mat and you're a winner. Just to go through these workouts and the grind and the grueling practices that happen with wrestling. All right, we're going to move into the 120. It looks like Beersford's going to do a little moving around, I think, unless we unless Bennett. I don't know if you see Bennett.
Bennett's over there warming up
Okay.
still. I'm not sure if they're bumping or if they're just going to wrestle Sebastian this match just to get some mat time here.
So Sebastian's an 8th grader. Wrestling it looks like I think a pretty good opponent here. And I think I remember watching these two wrestle earlier in the season. I believe, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think I watched these two wrestle before. Sebastian's really interesting as an 8th grader here. Good technical. Kind of still as an 8th grader, very an emotional wrestler. Which can kind of get him in trouble at times. But also one of those guys who can get in kind of an awkward position and still come out on top, which is those uncanny abilities as wrestlers to be able to do that. But, we watched this first match. I just kind of had his way with the first wrestler, and here we are watching Castillo come out and get a quick takedown and getting some riding time. And so, this is one guy that when you watch him wrestle the last couple of years, you can see that there's going to be some great things that come from this wrestler. He is a worker, and like I said, he gets a little emotional. He's competitive. He hates to lose, and he's going to put this guy in a pretty good position. He's going to get a fall out of this more than likely.
He's just unrelenting. He just does not let up there. Like on his feet, he just went after that kid over and over and over again. He was very confident.
Yeah, relentless worker, high motor, and that was a pretty impressive win.
Yeah, he's one of them kids just gets, like you say, he's emotional and he gets a little ahead of himself sometimes. Otherwise, that was obviously a very well-rounded match for him. He did everything right there that he needed to do. He's another one of them kids who just got to slow things down a little bit sometimes.
So Bennett Farley, another one of the better wrestlers here for Beersford, honorable mention in the state. He's going to get a forfeit. Seeley's going to get the second forfeit tonight, so we won't get to see Tripp wrestle tonight. We're going to go 138. We'll see Washington's got someone coming up. You know, it's really unfortunate for Beersford this year. So we got Dexton's going to come out and wrestle here. So we're here at the 138. One thing that's really kind of disappointing this year is watching Tate Lyle come out in the beginning of the year. Last year was good, was fun to watch. A lot of growth. First part of this year, he was dominant. I mean, he was wrestling so technically well. Great things were happening, like high ceiling wrestler, and torn labrum. Out for the rest of the season. So another year of just tremendous growth that probably is going to get robbed, and hopefully he can have a full recovery. But there's another wrestler you won't get to see tonight, but super high ceiling for Tate Lyle. And it's just unfortunate that he had a season-ending injury. And, you know, those are the ones that if you don't rehab them right and do those types of things, obviously shoulders are a big deal in wrestling and are for most sports, but this one especially at the grueling positions you can be in for long lengths of time with those shoulders. So hopefully he can have a full recovery and come back next year, because he could be a superstar on this team. And you know, I'd say Beersford's going to really have some success, I think, over the next three years. He would be a big part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you say, that's an injury. It's a long recovery process for that. I mean, you're looking at 6-7 months, you know, before you can really start using it or do anything with it. So it's just hopefully he's, you know, patient with his rehab and does all the right things and can get back out there for him next year.
Well, and you know, and we talked about this with these student athletes. You know, they're wrestlers, but they're also football players. They're track athletes. They're, you know, there's a lot of things that are going on, and he's a football player as well. And so once you see a shoulder injury, it's always, you know, you got to have some leeriness and say, do you continue to go with both sports? Pretty hard-nosed kid. I can't imagine that he would say no to one or the other, but sometimes you got to look at it and say, when's your longevity and where do you feel like your best spot is at? So I'd love to see him be able to continue with both sports, but man, he's got a high ceiling in wrestling, and I really hope that he can get back next year. Dexton's up here 12-3. We talked about him in the opener about, you know, being super explosive. Got a chance to visit with his dad here in the break and talking about, you know, I think that he had a winnable match in the last bout here with O'Gorman. Maybe went for some style points that he didn't need to, and he agreed. But, you know, that's the type of thing where, you know, hopefully Dexton, you know, looks at the film and says, man, I could have just went and did some basics, as you alluded to earlier, is like just doing the basics wins you a lot of matches. And he's got the ability to do those. Now he's got, you know, someone here that he can score on pretty easily and do those things. But
probably this is one of the matches that's important too, though, Jeff. Kind of get your head right, though, after, you know, it can get to be if you end on like that last one, you can dwell on that sometimes. Doesn't always happen, but it's good to be able to go out and watch him dominate like this. Obviously,
see,
it's not.
There's a throw.
Yeah. Obviously, yeah, very, very exciting, very explosive, just incredible.
Those are the types of moves we've been talking about all night where you haven't really seen them, and then you get a kid that's a super powerhouse, and he recognizes that it's there, has the strength and explosiveness to throw a kid right off of his feet to his back, and it's a 7-point play and a 7-point move, and he'll do that here. And so once again, it's kind of about the flash and the flare sometimes with him, and he's got someone he can do it with. But if he would have stuck maybe more with the basics on the last match, he probably could have ended up beating Lee. But either way, he's going to come out tonight with a hand raised, which is good. And you know, like you said, you're going to learn more in losses than you are ever in wins. And the one that he had matched before, he's going to take a lot more away from that one than the one he just had there.
Yeah, especially since he kind of just had his way with that kid. I mean, that wrestler there from Washington wasn't really ever in that match, which is just young. He's young, and Dexton's just had the upper hand there. So it's tonight to take a loss like that for Dexton. It's a good learning curve for him.
So going back to Landry Sims, talked a lot about him in the match before. He ended up, you know, kind of taking it on the chin there and got pinned. But all the skills or all the physical talent is there. Now it's just a matter of putting some things together. And so, you know, I'd really like to see him get into, not saying that he shouldn't, you know, everyone should be getting exposed to varsity matches. but one that can really start to benefit from more of the JV matches where he gets kids that aren't quite as experienced. Because some of these matches like this, and Corbin Boom's going through some of the same things. You get taken down, you get put to your back, and you get pinned. Not as much you get taken, not as much you can take. You get some of those matches where you're gonna get some scoring in, you're gonna get scored on, you're gonna be in some positions where you need a takedown to win. Is really where you get a lot of learning. But hey, this is part of the sport, right? Everyone's gonna have to at some point. You're gonna have to go out and wrestle varsity, and you're gonna face some really good quality kids, and probably get your tail handed to you every once in a while.
Well, and it's especially difficult at a young age like that. It's really easy to get in your own head when you get into a slump like that where you're like, geez, I'm going out and just wrestling, 40 seconds a duel. I mean, what's the point? It's easy to, get yourself into that mindset when there's always a point to it. You can always learn some out of it. Not as much in some of those matches where we're way outgunned, but it's still mat time. It's still important, and it's all still good learning curves for the kids. But it's really hard to stay motivated when you're in situations like that for sure.
Yeah. So is this Mike Item that we're?
I believe so.
I believe it is too. And so he's doing a really nice job here. He's on his way to a tech fall. Just handling him very, very tight here on the top, and going to kind of have an unconventional turn here if he gets that, which he didn't. But we're going to go into the second period. Item's up 13-2. Like I said, well on his way to a tech fall. Another wrestler that we didn't talk about tonight, I think is also injured. I can't remember what happened, but we've got Summervold from Elsister that's also on this team. It shows a lot of signs of potential too in this kind of weight class. Also a freshman. So, you're not seeing all of it, but if you look at this in totality, the freshman group that they have here at Beersford Elsister Hudson is, as I mentioned, going to be pretty talented. Item picking up another 7 points here.
Yeah, it's just we got to just get back to the scoring points there. I think we held on way too long in that situation when did a good job defending the headlock, and then we just sat on our knees. We just said, basically, what are you going to do next? And that's just young, inexperienced. We got to take the fight to them and can't get complacent sometimes.
Well, at least you got a chance to get some wrestling in. Like I said, you get those matches where if it comes into a takedown right into a pin, not a whole lot to be gathered for either wrestler on that. So you like to at least see some points scored, and that's one you could look back on film and, as you said, opportunities there to score, or at least not have a one that turns into a finishing move. All right, Steve, got to get that ankle turned back in with the color out. Steve and T1 taking on Cannon Clintz. First match got shut out. Which you don't see very often, and so Cannon right now is in a really good position. And this is where you'd like to see, like, we could. It feels like we could go into a different type of takedown. Okay, finally going to finish that off. Sometimes it looks like it's there, and maybe it's not if you're on the mat, but.
And you can hear the coaches, saying head in the holder, head in the holder. It's a very basic move, but it's so easy to score in a situation like that. Obviously, Cannon still got the points, but sometimes it's just about getting back to the basics and go get your points. You don't always have to go find the flashy move that everybody wants to do. But
yeah, and this is where you start to just see the massive change in talent and strength and all these things. You watch Cannon go out the first match, and the kid's able to kind of dominate him in all phases, and then you watch Cannon come out, and then kind of looks like that last match just on the other side. So you can see how things can change so quickly from one opponent to another in this sport. Because if you were just watching your first wrestling match, you would think, well, Cannon's just getting started and those types of things or whatever, and then you watch him here and he's doing some things that make a lot of sense, and he's using his power and leverage. That's one turn I don't love, getting all the way back out in front. It almost opens the door for what just happened is the escape. It's like you're on top, you're in control, you got 30 minutes left in the match. Really like to see Cannon just stay in control. You're up 7-1. There's no reason for you to kind of put yourself in harm's way at this point.
Well, especially with, head butch is more of a if we're hitting a good sprawl and then it ends up there. But I really don't like when we're, like you say, on top already, in control, doing a great job, and then we go out front and try to find it. There's so many other things that we can do from the top position that are to keep us in a way better position than that move does.
Yep, as you said, stay in the basics. That's not one where you're like, that's good, solid, foundational wrestling. You don't want to really get yourself where your hips are completely out of position when you're on top. And so, some things to work on. But if we can stay away from some more of that and stay more in the fundamentals, this is a guy who could be on the podium. You just have to keep grinding away and working on those basic things. But right now it's good defense. And I'm probably going to give up the 2 here.
Yeah, it was pretty crafty by Cannon there. It looked like he was almost going to just be relaxed and just give up the takedown, and then he kind of just dropped his head. And great feel for, again, that's just a pressure feel right there. He felt that the pressure was out front and did a great job of capitalizing off of it.
And those are like those things where you see like there's so much there to work with, and that was, like you said, it's a great feel move where you let the other opponent feel like you're kind of giving it up. It forces them to take an action that you're begging them to do, and you can turn it into points. And so as much as people think this is just all physicality and all these things, there's always a little chess match going on with those two down there, really kind of to get the other person to do something that you want them to do versus them just always being in control. A lot of times it's a mental thing as much as it is a physical.
Yeah, he should be okay here now. There he got the fall.
So Clint is going to finish that one off with a fall. That's going to make the duel 42-30 with Caden Shirk taking on Braden Pupke.
Yeah, we'll get to see them both kind of showcase something here. They both had that Slayton Jones tonight, who was in control of both matches from O'Gorman. So it'll be nice to be able to see what these two both can showcase here when you're not wrestling, at one of the more powerhouses of the state. Caden's got a lot of length. Like to see him take advantage of that right away.
Yeah, and one of his kind of his go-to takedowns, and it probably started when he was a kid, and it's hard to you don't see it a lot. He's able to kind of get in a fireman's carry position and finish that off. Here, obviously, he's working on a single leg, and he's going to come through the back door. But fireman's carry is one, you don't see a lot of wrestlers that are able to pull it off, but if it's just kind of a natural takedown for you, it can be really effective. You just do not see it that often, but kind of a humiliating thing when you get taken down that way too, because someone got in so deep that they were able to put you in a fireman carry position.
Just the problem with that move, you just have to cover so much ground, and lots of times you can't cover that much ground against a good kid. I think the guys that are good at it they score a lot of points off it because they're just so good at finding the openings. But it's very much so a timing thing. I mean, it's not a move that you're going to be able to force your position into. It's got 100% got to be there.
And I think that this year he's, instead of there where he would have went to a fireman's carry last year, now knowing that he's wrestling weights up, stronger, bigger kids, what used to work in the past, now those kids, drop their hips, sprawl out, and kind of splash you on the mat. And so he's had to kind of change his style and evolve. And so you can see it tonight where, what used to be that now turns into a single. He just hasn't really been able to finish that off. But that's one of those deals too. If you've always been able to get away with the fireman carry, or like you said, he was always so much taller than everybody else and had strength advantage in those things. And then when you see that it gets kind of caught up, that style has to evolve. And you can see that he hasn't had a ton of experience finishing off those single legs with kids that are seniors and 17 and 18-year-old kids. And so that will evolve. Once again, he's just a freshman, and future's very bright for Caden Shirk.
If I could have like a critique for the Rams across the board tonight, I think that we got ourselves in a lot of situations tonight where we got in like that shot Caden just did. That we shoot underneath guys a lot. And we really struggled to score in those situations. You look at Dexton's match, we lost that match because we shot 3 shots or we were in a high crouch and had to finish underneath of them. I'd like to see him do more outside, low-level stuff. Not that they did anything bad. I just think that was probably the one area they could critique the most and take out from tonight is that just getting caught underneath guys, and we're wasting a lot of energy down there trying to finish those shots.
Yep. Yeah, the kind of a misdirection type of thing where you're sliding out and away from the opponent as you're scooping up the ankle. To your point, when you get in those positions, the guy's weight isn't collapsing down on you, and you're just holding on for dear life and praying that something kind of materializes out of it. There, you're in control and pulling the leg away from him, and it's such a better position. And so, there's some things in the weight or in the wrestling room, and I'm sure Chestnut's probably looking at some of those things too, and maybe just also saying, these kids are freshmen. I'm just not, they're just not there yet. And I would even say some of them maybe don't have the strength even when they collect that foot to actually finish that off, and maybe that's something that has to come with time, and maybe that whole wrestling room and the culture starts to do that over time when they get a little stronger. But similar type of thing here, kind of a fireman's carry approach to it, and like I said, it isn't effective with a kid that's bigger and stronger like that. So got to kind of evolve, continue to find different things. How do people take people down? And Braden Pupke's right in here at 2-1 right now, and we've got a good match with 30 seconds left to go in the second period.
When you watch Owen wrestle tonight, and everything he hit was ankle picks or deep double legs off of drop shots. I mean, quick finishing shots. He doesn't spend a lot of time exalting extra energy because we're burying ourselves underneath the people. So I would just think that we just got to, again, and now Caden's doing a better job of improving on this situation, but we've ended up in this situation 5 times now, 4 of which have ended in a stalemate. So we just gotta do a better job. He's doing a great job of wrestling through that position there.
That was nice. Yep. And, getting last second points, those are always huge too. And it's like having clock awareness and saying, okay, there's 10 seconds left. How do I manufacture some points at the end?
Yeah, and that's incredibly frustrating when you're a Washington head coach there watching your wrestler give up that takedown with, 5 seconds left. It's just a mad awareness of just grab an ankle and hold on. You have plenty of time. There's not enough time left for anybody really to score out of that. So.
Yeah, on the Washington side, you're like, all you have to do is just hang on, buddy. You got 5 seconds. And we talked about coaching, conditioning, all those types of things. Does your kid have the understanding that there's only 7 seconds left? And sometimes you can blame that on a coach and say, well, he should have known. Well, he can't know when his head's down on the mat. So sometimes what you're yelling from the side, whether they hear it or not, is one thing. But, really coaching kids up with those critical situations with time running out, sometimes the best thing to do is just stay where you're at. Don't give up points. Oh, Caden's got a deep.
Yeah.
Okay, I was going to say that's probably going to result in a fall, and it did.
A great match for Caden.
Yep, good confidence builder coming off that last one. That's going to put the Rams up 48-30 on the duel.
Should have this one mathematically locked up. Then I believe this is our probably last.
This will be the last varsity match. Nope. Well, we may have one more after this because I think that we'll be. It looks like we got somebody on both sides here, unless we're going to do some JV matches here. I don't know, but. So Corbin, we talked about this. He kind of opened up the first match. Another freshman wrestling up in weight. A little newer to the sport still, and just a lot of learning that has to happen here with him. And going through this season is one where, some of those matches have been the takedown that went right into a pin. He's had some opportunities to do some things in some JV matches and learn there, and was frustrated on some of those where he knew he should have won some matches. So, right now this is I'd kind of look at Corbin as more like a journeyman wrestler so far at this point, like an Isaac Bowden, where it's like, not going to be the most explosive kid out there and always the quickest, but more of a grinder and kind of have to work your way into it. You're going to win more by will than you probably are by strength and speed.
And the thing is, for guys like Corbin that are wrestling the JV matches, it's probably a longer season for them guys because they're wrestling a lot of JV matches on Mondays, and then still suiting up for the varsity Thursday, Saturday. I mean, that's a lot of wrestling 3 days a week for kids their age. So my hat's off to them guys that are doing that both ways there too. It's important, but it's also a long season for them too.
Yeah, and a lot of kids don't, or a lot of people don't know. Like you said, you've got those additional matches that you're doing. You're not getting a break, and then. Most people don't know there's conditioning practices that happen at 6 o'clock in the morning. So these kids are up and off to the gym, and they'll do an hour of conditioning. Not every day, obviously, but it's I think at least one time a week they have the conditioning, and then they'll go to practice again that evening. And so you start mounting up the matches, and as we said before, it's a physical sport. Injuries will mount up, and if you can stay healthy through all of that, that's a good thing. Let's see, here's one where we talked about earlier. It's like taking kind of a poor shot.
Shot that I feel like we just have to take.
Yep, and just kind of taking the shot, leaving an arm out there, and then, kind of just getting horsed over, just not understanding when you got that underhook in there about what's to come, and just anticipating what the next move is going to be and countering it. And so Corbin's still trying to figure all that out.
I think if he does it, like I said, I think he does a great job when he ties guys up and wrestles from a tie. It's when I think he needs to just learn that maybe that's what we're better at. We don't have to take all these shots that we see everybody else in the room take. Maybe we just wrestle better out of a tie and an underhook series and things like that. And that'll all come with just time and experience.
Yeah, has to hit the weight room. Still gonna have to gain some strength, especially if you're going to be wrestling next year in these higher weight classes. Like, you got to start to get in the weight room and like right here, just not have an understanding of the move that's being put on you isn't super technically sound. So it's like you're wrestling someone that isn't quite sure how to turn you to your back, but is still able to get your arm and turn you. That's where the weight room's going to be super important for Corbin. All right. So Zayden Lee picks up a win. Nice win for him. Got some JV matches coming up, a little bonus wrestling. I talked about Carson Somervold earlier. Is that him? I don't think so. I think I see him sitting over on the bench. No, that's not. So hang on, folks. We'll have to listen. I'm unfamiliar with the names. Don't have the roster of all the JV wrestlers, so we'll have to pick up who's coming out to wrestle. And the gym's a little dark. Can't always see the faces that well either from where we're sitting in the gymnasium. So bear with us. So Albert Landu, Cody Rosenboom here taking on some JV matches. So a little extra wrestling. If you want to hang on and watch some more, we'll be right here with you and talking about the matches as we go. So there's the type of finish that we were talking about. Wrist control kind of opened the gate and went in deep. And, it's the one thing that you didn't see a ton of tonight is we saw Cirque do it, which we see him do quite often. He gets in so deep, and he's able to shift from I'm on my knees or I'm on a knee and then get right to your feet and lift.
Yep,
and
explosive.
Yeah, and that I get it. Not everybody's is capable of that. I wasn't probably the type of wrestler that at 6'4", getting underneath somebody and getting into a position where I can lift them off their feet very often just wasn't in the cards. But when you've got someone that can do that, and I know that there's some people on that Rams wrestling team that can. But really getting them to that mindset where that's how that takedown is supposed to go, and once you get a feel for it, I think then it's probably something that can occur more often.
Yeah, it just becomes second nature at that point. If you start building those good habits in the room right away. If there's more of shooting from distance and it works in our room, then they're practicing that every day. I mean, they're practicing more than they're competing. So if they're doing a lot of shooting from 10 miles away, but it's working in our room, then that's also creating bad habits too. So those are just things that they just got to clean up and adapt and keep growing and building. I didn't catch the names on these two.
Yeah, and doggone it, I've learned the name from our Rams wrestler a few times, and I forgot. He's had some success in some junior varsity matches. Seen him get some wins. Some of the similar things that I'm seeing with him are things that you see in Corbin Boom, where someone drags on their head and they have a tendency just to kind of go with it and fall, versus spinning your hips, getting yourself back squared up with your opponent. It's a matter of balance and gaining more strength, but it's also just having an awareness of what your opponent's going to do and anticipation of it. And so those things will have to come with time, but nice takedown by Sioux Falls, Washington there, of being able to kind of drag him by, get the leg, get him up in the air, and finish it off. And this is pretty common. You see with these junior varsity wrestlers is there's just a little of uncertainty of what to do on top and what to do on bottom. So you kind of end up in these matches where you're like, okay, I'm going to flip over, and then I'm going to end up putting you on your back. You're not really sure what to expect yet. But see, if he needs to let go of the arm with his left arm and just turn into him at this point, but he doesn't quite understand.
No.
Hanging onto that arm was actually like stopping him from getting the pinning position. So it's all feel and technical there. Now he's got the arm trapped underneath, and there's
just things that, and some of these kids just aren't, wrestling's a lot of natural ability too,
Yep.
right? You have to work really hard when you don't have all the natural ability. So sometimes these situations, like to a kid that has a ton of natural ability, they feel it, and it's just seems like such a different feel, where some of these more inexperienced kids, like situations that they think are comfortable, or they're not. Like we want to be there at all.
Right.
And that's just part of it. Wrestling's not a sport that you can just pick it up like it's nothing typically and just run with it. So I think it's just hard for these young kids. They need to understand that those situations that you feel comfortable in they're not good positions.
Yeah, and I think the word there is instinctive. Your instincts tell you, this is a bad position, I really don't want to be in it, or hey, this is a great position, how do I improve it? And you just feel it. And like right there, having the arm kind of holding him closer to you versus being able to spin your hips and then, be chest to chest, just wasn't instinctive at the moment. And, some of those things just have to happen over time with the feel. But as you said, sometimes you got some kids that have really strong instincts in wrestling and some that don't. And, that's a lot of times the difference between a great one and a good one.
Yeah, I can see he wants this seatbelt. It's just not, the pressure's just not there. So
right.
It's a great idea in theory, especially for a kid his size. But we're trying to hit it from the complete wrong situation at this current time.
Yeah, it's that whole thing of like, I know 3 moves. I've talked with Corbin about this, and I'm like, you got to have more than one takedown. You got to have more than one escape. You got to have more than one, kind of everything. It's like if you become that one, it's great to master how to get a single leg takedown. Vital. It's great that you can do it, but if that's all you do, unless you're just unstoppable at it, anyone that's watching you wrestle understands what your style or what you favor, and they know that it's coming, and so it gets really hard to set that takedown up if they're already expecting it's going to happen. Now we've seen some great ones at Penn State that I'm going to take you down with this, and there's really nothing you can do about it, and they'll still convince you to your momentum to go forward or backwards and set those shots up, but. Once again, super instinctive wrestlers, and that's how they're able to pull off a lot of those moves.
I mean, look at Jordan Burroughs, the Burroughs double. We all know, he's notorious for it.
Yep.
And he has a lot of other things well on his feet, too, of course. How many time, Olympic gold medals for us. But he shoots a double leg really well. No matter whether it's coming or not, he's really good at it. and he's also running through people. I think that's where we struggle a lot, in not only my youth club, but at the high school level. It's like we stop on our knees a lot. We need to drive through. I got to tell my kids all the time, you got to run somebody through a wall.
Yeah, and there's a lot to be said about that. Sometimes, I'm like, this can look a lot like football if you choose to make it so. I'm like, running through somebody and tackling them, it's still a takedown. It doesn't look like as pretty as maybe pulling off a really cool single leg takedown, but it puts kids a lot to their back, or at least puts them in a position to get a pinning move too. And I'm like, sometimes you just got to be the bulldozer and just run right through it.
I mean, you look how much like Jordan Burroughs, if he were to start his double leg takedown over where the N is on Hudson over there, he probably wouldn't finish it until he gets darn near the Warriors side.
Right.
Like, the amount of ground he covers when he's doing those kind of moves is incredible. And I think it's important for even high school kids and especially youth kids to watch those kinds of matches at that age. You can learn a lot from just watching somebody. They might not understand the finer details that like you or I would, but they still can get enough out of it to understand what they can, attribute to their wrestling too.
Yep. Well, we've got a minute 25 left here in third period.
We're going to go neutral here.
All right, we're going to go 7-4. Takedown's going to be required, right? 7-4. Maybe we're going to. Thought it was 6-4 before the point, but okay, if it's 6-4, well, we know a takedown's going to win.
You got to drive. This is one of those situations. Run your feet, run your feet, run your feet, run your feet.
Or get a foot behind his ankle. Instead, just not really sure how to finish that move off. And
he was in the better position. We just need to just literally try to cover as much ground as possible there. And it's just an inexperienced thing. And he's going to try that. We're just not settling our hips down, just not the understanding of we need, back points here. So we got to settle our hips down.
Right. And when you got both wrestlers that just aren't sure how to finish, these are these wild scenarios that you see, and you're like, he's just going to try run him over. And
right now we look very unsure of what to do next on top right now. Running the half from the wrong side, pulling people on top of us. Just a lot of learning curves to be had there. Did a lot of good things, but.
See, I don't think neither one of them were understanding that they were still wrestling.
No.
And when you're unsure what to do, you do some things that just do not make fundamental sense with wrestling, and that's probably what going to end up costing him this match. He was in a really good position to probably win it, but.
Again, just the zero. There's not an instinct there. Just not a full understanding.
Yeah. Well, folks, that will finish up the night. I hope you enjoyed the evening in wrestling, and we wish all of you a good night. We are signing off from Beersford Gymnasium. Justin, thanks for joining.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a pleasure.
So signing off from Jeff Boom and Justin Haneke. Have a great night.